Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Here, we bring you fun, thrilling, and immersive novels in audio form. With a growing library of audiobooks, there's something here for every listener. Do you like Naruto fan fiction? We have it all. From powerful ninja battles to amazing sage arts and wood-style moves, or even Tsunoda's boobs, you can enjoy epic adventures anytime. Love One Piece stories? Soar through the skies with Moonwalk, sense the world with observation hockey, clash with enemies using armament hockey, spending the night with Nami and Robin, and rise to fame by unleashing your conqueror's hockey. Become a true pirate of the seas. Your adventure starts here. Want even more? You can go full Bankai. Let's go. We offer a wide range of stories, including Fairy Tales, Hunter x Hunter, High School DxD, Marvel and DC, Harry Potter, and many more. So, what are you waiting for? Jump into endless adventures today. We're waiting for you at Novel Love Hearing. I've finished inspecting the room. There are no surveillance devices. So, let's discuss the cost of staying here. Looks like you've decided to move in. Rao gestured for her to sit on the couch. The negotiation was quick. They settled on a normal rental price. Rao didn't give her any discounts, even though he had the advantage of being close to her now. If he lowered the price, Ryo Futaba would definitely get suspicious, and that wasn't what he wanted. After finalizing everything, Rao clapped his hands and smiled. Toru, make something nice to welcome her. Hee, want some tail meat? Toru grinned mischievously. Absolutely not. Mai immediately shot her a glare. She and her mother had already fallen for that trick once. She wasn't about to let anyone else fall for it too. Ugh, so unfair. Toru pouted. Mai, why are you ruining this for me? Today, Rao is supposed to be mine. I said no, and that's final. I'm keeping my eye on you. Don't try anything weird. The two bickered as they headed into the kitchen. Meanwhile, Ryo Futaba's curiosity was piqued. Tail meat? What's that? Nothing, just a special kind of meat. Rao brushed it off casually. Then, he stood up. I'm going to visit a friend next door. Make yourself at home. Ryo Futaba hesitated, then her face turned slightly red as she asked. If I want to take a bath, what should I do? The bathroom is free to use whenever you want. As for clothes, you can borrow Toru's or Mai's for tonight. We'll buy more tomorrow. Going out late at night just to buy clothes seemed unnecessary. Rao's eyes subtly glanced at Ryo Futaba's chest, hidden beneath her white coat and buttoned shirt. It didn't look like much under the layers. But if she took them off, it was probably quite impressive. Luckily, Mai and Toru's clothes were big enough to fit. It shouldn't be a problem. Alright, thank you. Ryo Futaba nodded in agreement. She didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. After getting everything settled, Rao left the apartment. He was going to collect interest from Gabriel. Rao, you're here? As usual, Raphael opened the door for him. I'm here to see Gabriel. Oh, Gab-chan? She's in her room. Thanks. Knock knock. Rao knocked on Gabriel's bedroom door. Come in. Gabriel's voice called out from inside. So, Rao pushed open the door and walked in. Outside, Raphael watched as the door closed behind him. Her curiosity was killing her. They're not going to kiss again, are they? She couldn't help herself. On tiptoes, she pressed her ear against the door, holding her breath as she eavesdropped. Why are you suddenly here? Gabriel shot up from her chair like a startled rabbit. She had thought it was Raphael knocking. But when she looked up and saw Rao standing there, she panicked like a frightened bird. Why are you so flustered? Rao smirked, leaning casually against the desk. I'm just here to collect my interest. His eyes flicked toward her computer screen, where an online game interface was still open. Looks like you already spent the money. Gabriel immediately regretted everything. She had originally planned to wait and see what Rao wanted before deciding whether to spend the money or not. Now it was too late. Gabriel had thought about this. But after returning home, sitting in front of her computer, she couldn't resist. She opened the game. And then, she couldn't resist spending money. Now, she was like a lamb waiting for slaughter. She watched in horror as Rao's gaze lowered, landing on her lips. Kissing is absolutely not allowed. She panicked, hurriedly covering her mouth with her small hands. Oh? Not allowed. Rao raised an eyebrow, but didn't push the issue. After all, that wasn't why he was here this time. With a smile, he stepped forward. Gabriel, her eyes widening in terror, was suddenly pushed back down into her chair. Then, he asked a question that confused her. Can you play games with just one hand? Although she didn't understand his intention, she hesitantly nodded. I can. Good, then I'll just sit here and watch you play one-handed. Rao casually sat down on the edge of her bed, so close that their shoulders nearly touched. Huh? Gabriel was totally lost. The condition for paying off my debt is just playing games one-handed? Of course not. Rao suddenly grabbed her left hand, smirking playfully. I just want to collect some interest using this soft little left hand of yours. Gabriel's entire body froze in horror. Her face turned crimson. Her mind went blank. As she stared in shock, Rao reached into his pocket and pulled out the sundae. Raphael pressed her ear against the door, eavesdropping with great curiosity. Why can't I hear anything? She frowned. Was something blocking the sound? Her curiosity overwhelmed her. She gently pressed the door handle, carefully pushing the door open just a tiny bit. A small gap appeared. Just enough to peek inside. And what she saw was Gabriel, sitting in front of her computer, playing a game one-handed. But her expression looked panicked. She seemed distracted, her shoulder trembling slightly. Where's Rao? Raphael pushed the door open a little more. Her eyes widening in shock. She almost screamed. Luckily, she covered her mouth in time. Heart racing, she quickly closed the door, then collapsed against it, sliding to the floor. Her eyes trembled. Her hands trembled. She stared at her own right hand, which was about the same size as Gabriel's. She couldn't handle it. The future she imagined was now completely out of control. Gabriel and Rao's relationship has already reached this point. Inside the room, Rao glanced at the door, smirking slightly. He had definitely noticed Raphael peeking. But he didn't mind at all. Instead, he had a different problem. Gabriel's small hands were too tiny. It was a bit difficult. So, no choice. He grabbed her shoulders. Gabriel gasped in horror. Her eyes filled with sheer panic. What are you doing? She completely freaked out. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees. Looking up, her face turned beet red. Her entire mind went blank. Rao looked down at her, smiling calmly. Your hands are too small. So, let's use both. The money's already spent. You have no right to refuse. This is called contract. Eh? ? Meanwhile, at Rao's apartment, Mai and Toru were still busy in the kitchen. Ryo Futaba glanced at her slightly wrinkled clothes. Then at the clean clothes Mai had set out. She decided, I should take a bath first. 30 minutes later, she stepped out of the bathroom, feeling refreshed, wearing Mai's clothes, towel drying her damp hair. As she walked into the living room, her eyes fell upon the two ancient-looking books on the table. They were intricately designed, but seemed like mere decorations. She didn't touch them, just curiously observed. VRR. She turned on the hairdryer. WHO dares interrupt my sleep? Futaba froze, confused. She immediately turned off the hairdryer. Her eyes darted around the apartment. The voice had been a girl's voice. But it didn't sound like Mai or Toru. Was it from outside? She wondered. Shrugging, she turned the hairdryer back on. Ah. Stop it. You're so annoying. Futaba jumped in shock. This time, she saw it. The two books on the table were glowing. Then, they lifted into the air. Before her stunned eyes, the books transformed into two girls. One of them, a short-haired girl, pointed at her angrily. You're so rude. Buzzing the thing so loud. You woke me up. The other girl, who had a more mature aura, spoke calmly. Sora, be polite. She is our master's guest. Humphrey. The short-haired girl pouted. I know she's our master's guest. Otherwise, I'd have blasted her to pieces with a magic spell. The mature girl sighed, shaking her head in exasperation. She turned to Ryo Futaba, and gently smiled. Forgive her. Sora is a bit blunt, but she means no harm. Ryo Futaba was absolutely terrified. She could confirm. These two girls had not been here before. And she had personally witnessed them transform from books. I need someone to explain what the hell is going on. Chapter 189, Raphael's determination to end Gabriel corruption. Just as Ryo Futaba was feeling helpless about the sudden appearance of Sora and Ilya, Mai Sakurajima walked out carrying a plate of food. Seeing the scene before her, she seemed to immediately understand what had happened. Ahem, Sora, Ilya, don't scare Futaba-san. Sora pouted. Mai, I didn't scare her. She was the one who woke me up. Looking at Ryo Futaba's stunned expression, Mai sighed and rubbed her forehead. It may not seem strange to you, but to normal people, seeing books turn into humans can be quite shocking. Upon hearing this, Ryo Futaba finally couldn't hold back her curiosity. So, They really were books that turned into humans? I wasn't seeing things? Excuse me, I am not just an ordinary book. Sora puffed up with pride. I am the legendary magic grimoire, a Spell's manuscript. Master's most reliable assistant. Ilya tilted her head slightly. Has Sora ever actually helped Master with anything? How does that make you a reliable assistant? Ugh. The air grew awkward. She really hadn't done anything yet. Well. In the future. I meant in the future. I will definitely become Master's most reliable assistant. Sora declared defiantly. But Ilya didn't think that was the case. She knew how powerful their master, Rao, truly was. Whether they were there or not wouldn't make much of a difference to him. From the human knowledge Ilya had been studying for the past 30 minutes, she had learned something important. Their best use was to serve as bed warmers. Not that she minded. In fact, she looked forward to the day she could be even closer to her master. However, all of this was a minor issue compared to the real concern. Rio Futaba. Rao had told Mai not to hide anything about Sora and Ilya, so she decided to be upfront. Futaba-san, everything you saw was real. Since you can accept your own puberty syndrome, I'm sure you can accept this too, right? Rio Futaba fell silent for a moment. Then she sighed and gave a bitter smile. Well, it's right in front of me, so I guess I have no choice but to accept it. Good. Now that she could accept the supernatural, there wouldn't be any barriers in their conversations. Mai glanced toward the kitchen and said, anyway, if you have questions about Sora and Ilya, you can ask them directly or wait for Rao to come home. I need to finish preparing dinner. Oh, okay. Rio Futaba could tell Mai was busy, so she didn't press further. I don't want to talk anymore. I need to rest. Tadane said I'll need a lot of energy for tonight. Sora shot a sharp glance at Futaba before transforming back into a magic book and lying motionless on the table. Ilya bowed apologetically. Forgive us. Let's continue this conversation when Master returns. Then, she too reverted back into a magic book. Rio Futaba silently stared at the two books on the table. Her brain automatically began processing everything she'd seen. Could this also be explained by quantum mechanics? 1 hour later. Rao returned home. By then, Mai and Taru had already prepared dinner. Everyone took their seats, including the now awake Sora and Ilya. Rao noticed that Rio Futaba looked like she wanted to say something. Guessing her thoughts, he asked, You're curious about Sora and Ilya, aren't you? Yes. Rio Futaba didn't hesitate. I saw them turn from books into humans and then back into books. Her scientific curiosity was on full display. Quantum mechanics alone couldn't explain this. Can you tell me what's going on? Rao's explanation was simple and direct. They're my magic grimoires. Since they have magic, of course they can transform into humans. Short. Brutal. To the point. Rio Futaba looked even more confused. Magic? You're saying magic is real? She was a staunch believer in materialism. Even though she often used quantum mechanics to explain things. Whether it existed before or not. You saw it with your own eyes today, didn't you? Rao handed her a glass of fruit juice. Why overthink it? You already have puberty syndrome yourself. If you really can't accept it, just think of it as quantum mechanics. There's not much difference. Rio Futaba wanted to argue. Quantum mechanics couldn't explain this. But in the end, she just gave up trying to rationalize it. She decided to stop thinking for now and just accept it. She was exhausted. She had received too much bizarre information in one day. Rio Futaba was mentally drained. She chose to empty her mind. Gabriel also emptied her mind. As Rao leisurely walked away, Gabriel bolted out of her room and rushed into the bathroom. Pa! The sound of running water filled the space. Gabriel frantically washed her hands, face, and hair. She could still smell Rao's scent all over her. Her mind had gone completely blank in that moment. She had never experienced something like that before. After several minutes of scrubbing, Gabriel finally looked up at the mirror. Her face was as red as a ripe fruit. A wave of emotion, like countless ants crawling over her skin, made her feel strange and restless. What the hell did I just do? Gabriel, what are you doing in there? Suddenly, Raphael's voice called from outside the bathroom. Gabriel froze for a second before responding in a stiff voice, and nothing. Just, taking a quick shower. Oh, okay. If there's hot water, I might take a bath later. With that, Raphael's presence moved away. Pa. Gabriel slapped her cheek slightly to calm herself down. But as soon as she moved her hands, she winced. HMGH. A sharp soreness spread through her wrists and fingers. That guy is a monster, isn't he? She couldn't believe it. Her arms ached, her eyes were strained, and she felt completely drained. She had been forced to keep up for a full hour. Gabriel never imagined she'd experience something like this in her life. She sighed deeply. Pervert. Then, suddenly, she became serious. That was the last time. No matter what, I will never borrow money from him again. Gabriel stared at her reflection in the mirror and swore to herself. But then... Huh? She leaned closer to the mirror and noticed a glaring red mark on her forehead. Her eyebrows twitched. A moment later, she stomped her foot on the bathroom floor, her face turning bright red again. That bastard looked so smug back then. She gritted her teeth as a certain scene flashed in her mind. In that moment, Gabriel huffed angrily and spat out, "Damn pervert." She mumbled complaints to herself in the bathroom, completely unaware that someone was secretly listening from outside. Raphael, hidden just beyond the door, had heard everything. She had already suspected something was wrong, but now she was sure. Her mind was racing. What she just witnessed wasn't a hallucination. Even if she didn't know whether Gabriel and Rayao had gone all the way. At the very least, Gabriel had used her hands. That fact alone was shocking enough. In human culture, it was just considered a little fun. But Gabriel was an angel. An angel. An angel had done something like that. Raphael felt like her entire worldview was collapsing. If Gabriel's angelic sisters ever found out about this, things would get very ugly. Raphael clenched her fists, her eyes flashing with determination. I can't let this continue. Gabjan, I won't just sit by and watch you fall deeper into corruption. Chapter 190, Mabel tired and satisfied sleep. Haruno and Shizuka talks next door to Rayao's house after an entire day. Mabel finally woke up from exhaustion. Ugh. She half sat up, blinking groggily. The first thing she saw was Yukino, calmly reading a book. Yukino. Hearing her name, Yukino glanced up from her book, seeing Mabel's pained expression. What is it? Mabel's face turned red as she hesitated, mumbling shyly, I don't feel well. I want to take a bath. Yukino's eyelid twitched. She already knew what was going on. After a little investigation, she had learned the truth. It was obvious that Rayao hadn't used any precautions. Her thoughts became a tangled mess. She was genuinely worried about Mabel. What if she got pregnant? That was a whole new problem she didn't want to think about. She quickly responded, then go take one now. And make sure you wash properly. Oh. My legs are weak, Yukino. Mabel looked at her pitifully, clearly too sore to move properly. Yukino sighed, finally noticing other marks on Mabel's body. She reluctantly got up, helping carry her to the bathroom. At the same time, she sent a private message to Rayao. Private message, Yukino Shita Yukino, aren't you even worried about the consequences of your trades? She had phrased it carefully, at least in a way that wouldn't make her feel embarrassed. Rayao, I'm eating dinner, and you're asking me this? Rayao, you mean Mabel, right? Don't worry. It's not that simple. Even if something happens, I have ways to handle it. Rayao, I take responsibility for every woman involved with me. That's my bottom line. Yukino. Rayao's words left her speechless. She glanced at Mabel, who was now soaking in the bathtub, looking tired yet oddly satisfied. Yukino wasn't sure if she should envy or pity this foolish girl who had completely fallen into Rayao's grasp. At the Yukino Shita household in the living room, Mrs. Yukino Shita sat elegantly on the couch. Across from her, Yukino Shita Haruno sat with perfect posture. Mrs. Yukino Shita was reading through some documents, while Haruno remained silent. The room was deathly quiet. But Haruno was already used to this kind of atmosphere. Finally, after finishing the last page, Mrs. Yukino Shita took off her glasses, placing them aside. She calmly asked, Haruno, how has Yukino been living outside? Though it sounded like a question of concern, Haruno knew the truth. Their mother already knew she had been keeping an eye on Yukino. Haruno kept her expression neutral, replying smoothly, she's fine. Everything is normal. She didn't mention Yukino's social life or her interactions with a certain boy. I see. Mrs. Yukino Shita nodded, then simply said, you may go rest now. Yes. Haruno stood up quickly, leaving without hesitation. Being around her mother always felt suffocating. The pressure was something she had long grown accustomed to, but it never got easier. Returning to her room, she locked the door and finally relaxed a little. She collapsed onto her bed, closing her eyes for a moment. She had covered for Yukino, hoping to give her some freedom. But she knew their mother wasn't easily fooled. Would she investigate anyway? Sigh. I just hope she doesn't dig too deep. Haruno let out a tired sigh. There wasn't much she could do. Bored, she pulled out her phone. Then she remembered something. The situation with Shizuka. That day, Shizuka's reaction had been too suspicious. And Haruno was still curious. Shizuka, let me dig into your secrets a bit. She quickly sent a message to Hiratsuka Shizuka. Private message, Yuki no Shita Haruno, Shizuka, what are you doing right now? Hiratsuka Shizuka, nothing much. Just finished dinner. Why? Haruno, TSK, Shizuka, you're not being honest with me, are you? Shizuka, Haruno, what are you talking about? Haruno, hee, didn't you always say you'd never date younger men? That older women shouldn't chase young boys? But what's this now? Shizuka froze, almost dropping her phone. Did she figure it out? Her face flushed red as she panicked. She was too embarrassed to admit anything. But now. Shizuka, I have no idea what you're talking about. She typed back quickly, pretending she didn't understand. She was testing to see how much Haruno actually knew. Haruno, oh my? On the other end, Haruno saw Shizuka's delayed reply and couldn't help but grin mischievously. This was unexpected. If she had only been 50% suspicious before, now she was 80% certain. Well. Looks like I'm about to uncover a big secret. Shizuka. Haruno's smirk deepened, her fingers dancing over her phone keyboard. Private message, Yuki no Shita Haruno, Shizuka, you're really not being honest with me. You don't treat me like a friend at all, do you? Shizuka froze, alarm bells ringing in her mind. This was bad. She could already sense impending humiliation. Haruno, you know, I actually saved a recording of our call that night. The one with you, me, and Rayao. Haruno, something about it felt off, so I replayed it a few times. And guess what? Ha, you actually turned me into part of your play. I'm doomed. Shizuka's eyes filled with despair. She had completely exposed herself. She wanted to die. Haruno, how about I send the recording back to you? Let's all enjoy listening to how breathless and enthusiastic you were. Shizuka, please, for the love of God, don't. Shizuka, I was wrong. Haruno, oh? And what exactly did you do wrong? Shizuka, I shouldn't have given in to temptation and engaged in older woman seducing younger man behavior. Shizuka, and I especially shouldn't have asked you for advice on rejecting Rayao. Shizuka, but let me clarify one thing. I swear that the whole play situation was unintentional. Shizuka, we were caught up in the moment. We never expected you to call right at that time. You have to believe me. PFFT. Haruno burst into laughter. She hadn't expected Shizuka to confess everything so quickly. But damn, she really had caught some juicy details from this. Still, she wasn't done yet. Haruno, wow, Shizuka. I should tell you a secret too. Shizuka. What? By this point, Shizuka had completely given up. Her secrets were already laid bare. Nothing else could make this worse. Haruno, the truth is, I never actually recorded anything. Haruno, I knew nothing. I was just testing you. And guess what? You confessed to everything. Ha, Shizuka? Shizuka, what? Shizuka froze. Her brain short-circuited. Was that even a thing? Did she just self-destruct for no reason? Damn it. Shizuka collapsed onto her bed, face buried in a pillow. This was beyond humiliating. Private message, Haruno, ahaha. Okay, I know you're mad, but let's focus on the real issue here. Haruno, Shizuka, I am happy that you found someone you like and who likes you back. As your friend, I truly wish you happiness. Shizuka, who had been fuming, suddenly calmed down. Shizuka. Thanks. But Haruno wasn't done. Haruno, however, there are some very real problems you need to face. Haruno, first, the age gap. Haruno, second, your very dangerous profession. Haruno, the age gap? Whatever. Older woman, younger man. Who cares? I personally don't think that's an issue. Haruno, but your job? That's the real problem. Haruno, you know that if this relationship gets exposed, you could be in serious trouble, right? Shizuka, I know. She had always been aware of the risks. That's why she had resisted for so long. She had held on to her professional boundaries. Until Rayao completely shattered them. Shizuka, but Rayao is different. He told me that even if this gets exposed, it wouldn't be a problem. Haruno? Haruno narrowed her eyes. What the hell does that mean? Was Shizuka really trusting a high school student to handle something this serious? Haruno, wait. Does he come from a powerful family? Shizuka, no, he doesn't have any family. Haruno? Haruno, Shizuka, are you sure you don't have a fever? Shizuka, I'm not sick. Shizuka, listen, Rayao is just special. He said he can handle it, and I believe him. Shizuka's words were firm, completely confident in Rayao. Haruno fell silent. For the first time, she seriously considered something. Was Shizuka getting manipulated? Rayao didn't seem like a manipulator. But to convince a grown woman, a teacher, to break all of her morals in such a short time? That was beyond ordinary. Haruno, so you're telling me he's really that special? Shizuka nodded to herself. Shizuka, yes. And honestly, you should see for yourself. Haruno leaned back, processing everything. If Rao really had this kind of influence, she had to learn more about him. For Shizuka's sake. A small smile curved on her lips. Haruno, alright, Shizuka. I'll come visit you soon. Let's go have some drinks and talk this out properly. Shizuka. Okay. Fine. Hey. This just got interesting. Haruno couldn't wait to meet Rao in person. Chapter 191, Stare into the Abyss and the Abyss Stares Back After Dinner. A few people gathered in the living room to chat. Mai felt relieved she kept an eye on Toru, preventing her from cooking with any tail meat this time. Before long, Mai went to take a bath. Toru, Sora, and Ilya returned to their room, doing who knows what. That left only Rao and Ryo Futaba in the living room. They both sat there scrolling through their phones, perfectly capturing the modern young adult mood. Just then, Rao received a message from the other Ryo Futaba. Ryo Futaba, did you see her? He could tell she was quite concerned about her other self. Rao, I did. Ryo Futaba, where is she now? Rao, she's in my bed. Ryo Futaba? Rao, haha, kidding. She's at my place, though. Rao laughed softly and turned to glance at the Ryo Futaba on the sofa's other end. Then he got up and sat down beside her. Huh? Ryo Futaba eyed him warily. What's he up to sitting so close all of a sudden? Rao raised his phone and switched to the selfie camera so both their faces were in frame. He explained, your other self is worried about you, so I'm sending her a photo to show you're fine. You don't mind, right? Ryo Futaba blinked. Another version of me is worried about me? It felt odd, but she only gave a slight shake of her head. Click. He took the picture, then sent it to the other Ryo Futaba. At that point, the current Ryo Futaba looked at him curiously. Can I see your conversation with her? She asked bluntly. It's not that I want to invade your privacy, I'm just curious how she talks online. I'd like to study it. No problem. Rao handed his phone over without concern. Ryo Futaba spotted his earlier in my bed remark in the chat logs and tensed up. Rao noticed her body language and spoke soothingly. That was just a joke. Sorry if it startled you. Ryo Futaba stayed silent. Soon after, the other Ryo Futaba sent another message. Ryo Futaba, looking at her dull, emotionless face, how could she possibly get anyone's attention? The Ryo Futaba reading the message felt a sting in her chest. She normally wouldn't care about people's comments, but being put down by her own self was something else. Rao tried to calm her. Don't worry, she's just more outgoing than you. But even as he reassured her, he typed his own message. Rao, I think she's great. At least, I'm attracted to her. Hearing that so directly, and with him saying it right in front of her while messaging her other self, made Ryo Futaba feel a wave of embarrassment. She couldn't handle any more strange back and forth, so she stood up abruptly. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Good night. With that, she left. Watching her go, Rao smirked. Then another new message arrived from the other Ryo Futaba. Ryo Futaba, you literally just confessed to me a short while ago, and now you say you're attracted to her too? You're such a womanizer. Rao, thanks for the compliment. Ryo Futaba, I wouldn't call that a compliment. Rao, doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that I like Ryo Futaba. Both of you. Over on the other end, the other Ryo Futaba, lying on a bed, said nothing in response. What a scumbag. She muttered, cheeks glowing bright red as she placed her phone against her chest, staring at the ceiling. She could hear her own racing heartbeat. Proof that she was alive. Her gaze turned deep, and she whispered, Rao. I don't want to disappear. Of course, Rao. On the other side of the screen. Couldn't hear those words. Seeing no further messages, he got up and headed to his bedroom. When he opened the door, the atmosphere inside felt different. In the soft pink glow of the lamp, 3 figures knelt on the bed with their backs to him. Toru turned her head, her eyes sultry. Rao, we're all ready for you. Sora and Ilya, both blushing, spoke in unison, Master. Huh? Rao tugged at the corner of his mouth. The trio's attire was even more enticing than Mai's bunny outfit, especially with their backs turned, revealing the most alluring angles. He could guess Toru was behind all this. He loosened his collar. Toru, you're a dragon that can never get enough, huh? Stepping into the room, he nudged the door shut with his foot. Water showered down in the bathroom, then gradually ceased. Mai grabbed a towel to dry the beads of water clinging to her smooth skin. Wrapped in a bath towel, she emerged to find the living room empty. On the table, she spotted an unmistakable hairband. She remembered it belonged to Ryo Futaba. Taking it in hand and switching off the living room lights, Mai headed to Ryo Futaba's bedroom door. Knock, knock. Her pale fingers tapped lightly against the door. Before long, Ryo Futaba answered. Sakurajima-san? Is something the matter? She looked puzzled. Here. Mai held up the hairband. This should be yours. Try not to lose it again. Oh. Right. Ryo Futaba noticed her hair was down. She left her hair tie in the living room. She thanked Mai and took it back. No need for thanks. It's just a small thing. It's getting late, so let's both get some rest. Mai then turned toward her own bedroom across the hall. She didn't pause at all before opening the door, and an utterly mortifying scene unfurled. The moment Mai opened the door, noise flooded out. Though Toru had magically reinforced the room's soundproofing, the soundproofing only worked if the door remained closed. The instant it was open, any noise inside spilled directly into the hallway. For a split second, Mai stood there, stunned. She hadn't expected them to start so early. Snapping out of it, she slammed the door shut, then turned around stiffly, remembering Ryo Futaba was right behind her. She saw Ryo Futaba's eyes were wide, her mouth gaping in utter disbelief. The noise had vanished with the doors closing, but it still echoed in Ryo Futaba's ears. And in that brief moment, she'd glimpsed a chaotic scene through the gap. Her lips felt dry as she stared blankly at Mai. What exactly was that? She finally managed, still in shock. Mai felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. Damn Ryo. Couldn't he at least warn them before doing this? But there was no way to explain what Ryo Futaba had just witnessed. She'd certainly heard Toru's rather spirited screams. Mai forced a strained smile. If I said it was all your imagination, would you believe me? Ryo Futaba said nothing, just kept her gaze locked on Mai, cheeks visibly flushed. All right then. Realizing it was useless to argue, Mai sighed and pressed a hand to her forehead. As you can see, things here are a bit complicated. Truthfully, Ryo Futaba had already been suspicious about Toru's maid role. She'd noticed Toru was far too close to Ryo, but since Mai was his official girlfriend, Ryo Futaba hadn't thought much about it. Yet what she'd just witnessed, and Mai's nonchalant admission, completely shattered her assumptions. And now, remembering Sora and Ilya hovering around Ryo Futaba's mind spun in confusion. Doesn't it bother you? She couldn't help asking. This was Mai's boyfriend, after all. Mai hesitated, her eyes drifting. Not really. No. She resorted to repeating one of Ryo's usual lines, you know we're all special. More than ordinary people, I mean. We can do supernatural things. Magic. Ryo Futaba muttered, recalling the living grimoire she'd encountered. Could magic really justify ignoring all the standard morals and worldviews? It made no sense to her. Quantum mechanics couldn't explain this, either. Overwhelmed, she turned away from Mai and stepped back into her room. I see. Let's just call it a night, then. With that, she closed the door. Phew. Mai let out a long breath. Having to explain their chaotic household was an experience. She now better understood the incredible composure Ryo had whenever he talked to Megumi, Yumiko, and others about their situation. No wonder he's such a shameless, flirtatious jerk. Damn you, Ryo. The memory of the earlier scene made her fume. She stomped to the bedroom door, ready to storm in and scold them. But when she opened it, she jumped. Toru's face was right there. She was startled to see Ryo riding Toru as she hovered near the door. Mai pointed at them in shock. You guys. Ryo smiled. What about us? Toru, bring Mai in. Let's see how long she can last. Hum. Toru nodded, albeit somewhat awkwardly, and grabbed Mai's wrist, hauling her into the pink-lit room. Mai felt herself dragged into the depths. Bang. The door to the abyss closed behind them. From behind the smaller, secondary door just down the hall, a single eye watched the scene. She gazed upon the abyss. And the abyss gazed back at her. Chapter 192, A Fool Trying to Fight a God, Amatori Biba. For a moment, Ryo Futaba stood behind her firmly closed door, her back pressed against it, face burning and heart pounding. She felt like she was on fire. Under the corridor light, she finally got a proper look at Toru's sinuous, seductive figure. And the kind of perfect physique Ryo possessed to pull off such a bold move. Before this, she'd only heard about these things in passing or from health class, but seeing them with her own eyes completely overwhelmed her. Especially the thought. Should I leave? Recalling what she had witnessed earlier. Toru's situation, Mai's acceptance, and so on. She felt for the first time that she might be in danger. It was contradictory. When talking normally, Rao was humorous, frank, and easygoing. But when he and Toru got into it, he seemed wild and primal. So much so that even the proud Toru turned into someone almost mindlessly entranced. Does that really make people act so differently? The more she thought about it, the redder Ryo Futaba's face grew. An unprecedented sense of confusion took root in her mind. Iwato Station. This was a required stop for the Kautetsuju, Iron Fortress, on its way to the Kongukaku stronghold. Under the leadership of Yamagawa Ayam, the Kautetsuju arrived here largely unscathed. Now, on the Kautetsuju, no one dared to try using their social standing to pressure Ayam anymore. Every troublemaker who attempted such things had been dealt with or exiled by Ayam, whose demeanor had changed considerably. After multiple purges, Ayam believed that only those worth protecting remained on the Kautetsuju. In turn, all of them revered Ayam with great respect. After all, it was thanks to Ayam and Kajika's displayed abilities that they'd repeatedly been saved from attacks by the Kabane. She was enshrined in their minds as a priestess of the gods, and Kajika was seen as a divine emissary. Once the Kautetsuju stopped at Iwato Station, Kajika hurriedly sought out Ayam. "Ayam-sama, Mumai's gone." Mumai was her friend, so Kajika was worried. Mumai. Ayam recalled the things Rao had taught her. He'd given her a broad explanation not only about ways to make love but also about Mumai's background and the broader situation in her own world. From Rao's account, Ayam knew that Mumai was the younger sister of Amatori Biba, the shogun's eldest son. Indeed, Biba's subordinate and pawn. Given her background, Mumai was unlikely to meet any real danger. Still, Ayam mused. Kajika, don't worry too much. Mumai has a special status, so she won't be harmed easily. But we should be on our guard. According to Rao, Amatori Biba was no ordinary figure. Ayam suspected Mumai's disappearance might be linked to him. They had to stay vigilant at any sign of trouble. Sure enough, Mumai's departure was tied to Biba. She left together with another hunter, a curvaceous, orange-haired woman named Horabi. Like Mumai, she was also a Kabanari. Walking side by side, Horabi studied Mumai's downcast expression. Eventually, she broke the silence. "Mumai, you've got something on your mind, haven't you? Our young master won't like it if you show up before him looking like that." Mumai remained silent. She did have a lot on her mind. She sensed her big brother was scheming something terrible. Not long ago, she'd noticed some of the hunters had infiltrated the Kautetsuju. Mumai had a bad feeling that the Kautetsuju was part of her brother's plan. She didn't want him targeting the people on board. Especially her friend Ayam. First, because Mumai truly had came to view them as companions, no longer treating her like an outcast. Second, because she was keenly aware of just how strong Ayam and Rao really were. If Biba clashed with them, Biba would die. He was her benefactor and brother, so Mumai didn't want to watch him be destroyed by going up against Ayam and the others. Seeing Mumai's silence, Horabi also fell quiet. She pitied the girl. Mumai knew nothing. Just a tool in the young master's hands. Horabi, on the other hand, understood Biba's entire plan, and she supported him out of admiration and respect, no matter how dark his intentions. Suddenly, they arrived at a luxurious manor. "The young master's inside," said Horabi, stopping in front of the building. "All right." Taking a deep breath, Mumai resolutely stepped through the door, Horabi following close behind. Inside that lavish room stood a man with flowing pink hair, dressed in aristocratic finery. Completely unlike the commoners outside. He was busy inspecting a firearm. The click of footsteps made him look up and set the weapon aside. "Young master. Brother." Mumai and Horabi knelt on one knee in respect. This man, with his cold pride and aloof demeanor, was none other than Amatori Biba. He didn't spare Horabi a single glance, instead narrowing his gaze at Mumai. "Mumai, in the Kautetsuju, did you hear stories about the god and priestess of God?" Mumai's body tensed. He was bringing this up right away, which meant he'd probably received some information from his own sources. She pressed her lips together and answered truthfully, "Yes. I have." "Have you seen them?" "I have." "Oh?" Amatori Biba's eyes gleamed. "Tell me everything." Mumai hesitated, meeting her brother's piercing gaze. Finally, she pleaded, "Brother, please, don't make them your enemies. They're very strong." Biba was taken aback. This was the first time Mumai had avoided giving him a direct answer. "Interesting." He let out a slight laugh. Mumai's reaction only made him more curious about these god and priestess on the Kautetsuju. Casually, he waved his hand. Clang. A heavy iron syringe filled with some kind of black fluid dropped to the floor near Horabi's feet. Horabi froze at the sight. Biba's voice was icy. "There's been a change of plan, Horabi. Use it here. Let me see the Kautetsuju's so-called gods for myself." "Understood." In Mumai's confused gaze, Horabi grabbed the syringe without hesitation and plunged it into her own neck. Mumai, you're coming with me. Biba turned and gave the order to his sister. Chapter 193, Mumai desperate plea. Brother. What happened to Horabi? Seeing Horabi's face twist in agony after injecting that black fluid, Mumai realized the Kabinari heart inside her was glowing fiercely. A vague sense of danger pulsed through the air. Biba explained flatly, without a shred of emotion, that's black plasma. A drug that greatly increases the virus's activity. She'll become a black smoke. I need her to test exactly what kind of god is on the couch at Suju. He showed no sign of concern or guilt for what he'd done to Horabi, who so deeply revered him. Horabi, in her last shred of sanity, looked at Biba's unmoved expression. There was no pain in her eyes. Only resignation and relief. Ah! Black liquid burst forth from her heart, and Horabi let out a terrifying scream. Her eyes burned red with madness. Completely losing all reason. Black smoke. The horrifying transformation made Mumai's blood run cold. She knew what a black smoke was. Brother, why do this? She couldn't understand why the brother she revered would inject such a bizarre drug into Horabi, who had done nothing wrong. Biba's eyes remained icy. For my revenge. I can't afford any mistakes. Ah! Horabi roared mindlessly, her body mutating. Let's go. Biba turned to leave the house, knowing the birth of a black smoke here was dangerous. But after a few steps, he noticed Mumai wasn't following him. She stared at him, eyes dim. I'm sorry, brother, but I can't abandon my friends. She pulled away the ribbon on her neck, gave Horabi a complicated look, then rushed past Biba in a blur. She had to warn Ayam and the others. Biba watched Mumai's retreating figure for a long moment before turning away, expression grim. At the same time, the presence of the mutated Horabi attracted a large horde of Kabane converging on Iwato's station. Late night at Rao's place, Sora and Elia were sound asleep, stomachs filled with contentment. Toru, however, was pouting. Damn it, Mai. She said she wouldn't join. She glared at Mai, who was lying face down and too exhausted to retort, making Toru even more annoyed. She reached out and pinched Mai's flushed cheeks. TCH. Mai glared back as best she could, though her eyes were glazed with fatigue. Humphrey, that's what you get for breaking your promise. After Sora and Ilya were done, the rest of the time was supposed to be mine. Toru put on a pitiful expression, but Rao only chuckled from where he was driving. There's always next time, Toru. Since Mai finally let herself go, there was no way I could miss out on this chance. What chance? Mai asked hazily. She'd barely managed to see or think straight under all that noise. With Toru and the others going at it so energetically, she couldn't possibly sleep, and when she opened her eyes, well, she'd ended up getting involved. But Rao's words sounded ominous, making her tense up. He leaned down, raising the intensity of his movements as he whispered in her ear, the chance to push your limits, Mai. I'm hoping next time Megumi and the others join in, too. Eh? That bombshell left Mai stunned. Sure enough, it started with just her. Then Toru. Now Sora and Elia. She really had been slowly coming to accept more and more. Realizing that, her entire body stiffened. It felt like she was being gradually trained. Willingly entrapped in a net Rao had woven. Rao suddenly frowned. It wasn't because of the sensations from the connector they were using but rather because of a message from the IAM World chat group. Mumai had mentioned him. Mumai, Rao-sama, are you there? This surprised him. Mumai had rarely contacted him, so whatever happened must be big. He said in a low voice, Mai, something came up. This is the last round. Mai felt the bed move beneath an intense surge of force. She completely lost control of herself as Rao delivered an overwhelming final rush. Gulp. Toru, who'd been watching, swallowed hard. If one sewing machine speed was the standard, Rao's phantom-like movements had reached triple that rate, at least. But Toru wasn't afraid. She was envious. If Mai hadn't joined, it would have been her enjoying that final burst. Ha! Rao let out a breath. Even in his finishing moments, he swiftly responded to Mumai. Rao, what happened to make you contact me all of a sudden? Mumai was thrilled to see his reply. Mumai, Rao-sama. You can turn Kabane back into humans. Does that mean you could also revert a Kabaneri who's become the core of a black smoke? Her heart pounded in her chest. Mumai. Yukina patted Mumai's shoulder in silent support. Before them lay the massive body of a black smoke. However, the entire creature was frozen in place, every part of it sealed under ice arrows fired by Iam's frostbow. At level 23 now, Iam could slay a black smoke in an instant. But she'd held off at Mumai's plea because the being at the core was someone Mumai knew. Everyone waited anxiously for Rao's response. If it was no, Iam would immediately fire another ice arrow to destroy the black smoke's core. But thankfully, Rao didn't refuse. Rao, it probably won't be a problem. What he couldn't do before might be possible now. Mumai, thank goodness. That's such a relief. Tears of joy rolled down Mumai's cheeks. Though Horabi was just a colleague and not really a friend, Mumai still couldn't bear to watch her die so miserably at Biba's hands. Rao, so you want me to bring this black smoke's core back to human form? Mumai, please, Rao-sama, save her. Ding. Mumai has sent a trade request, trade details, restore Horabi, the black smoke's core, to human form. Ding. Please choose your trade terms. Chapter 194, Restoring a Cabane Easily. Horabi? Rao recognized the name, albeit with some difficulty. Even though she was a relatively minor character in Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, she was memorable enough. A tragic figure who willingly allowed her prince to use her as a pawn to become a black smoke, ultimately helping Amatori Biba breach the walls of Kongukaku. She was one of those supporting characters who showed up briefly, changed rapidly, and then met a sorrowful fate. However, Rao had one small concern. Have Iam and her people already reached Kongukaku? Based on the time they left Harrogane Station, it shouldn't have happened this quickly. While pondering, he also set the trade conditions. From Mumai's side, there wasn't really any ability or item he wanted. So, as usual, it came down to body usage rights. The moment he confirmed the condition, Mumai on the other end accepted. Ding. Trade initiated, trade partner, Mumai, trade content, restore Horabi, who has become the black smoke's core, to her human form. Trade condition, body usage rights, once, duration, 24 hours huh? Taru, seeing that trade come through, instantly looked crestfallen. First, she had yielded some time to Sora and Ilya. Then she had to give some to Mai. Now Sora and Ilya were satisfied and asleep, Mai had blissfully passed out in ecstasy, leaving Taru pitifully neglected. And her precious time was about to be taken by some nameless individual called Mumai. What rotten luck. Her unfulfilled desires churned as Rao grabbed his charging cable from Mai. NGH, Rao, I still haven't. He could only shrug apologetically. Taru, it seems we'll have to stop here for tonight. I need to head out. Eh? Taru wanted to at least get a taste, but Rao was already dressed and gone in a flash. Taru genuinely wanted to roast this Mumai, whoever she was, to ashes for interrupting her fun. Seething, she turned to glare at Mai, who lay there with eyes rolled back, breathing evenly. With a smack to Mai's soft skin, Taru cursed under her breath. Damn you, Mai. But Mai, having been ravaged by that triple sewing machine speed, was out cold. She couldn't hear Taru's grumbling, nor could she feel Taru drawing on her with a marker in petty revenge. In the group chat Frieren, so the trade partner is Mumai, right? She seems to be someone from Iam's side. Frieren, anyone still awake to check on this? Shizu Aizawa, I'm not asleep. Akam, same here. Shino Aragi, you guys have such weird schedules. Isn't it the middle of the night for you? She only happened to see the notifications because she got up in the night. Shizu Aizawa, it just so happens I'm out training. By training, she meant leveling up. She was exploring a forest teeming with monsters, hunting down the vicious ones. For all her strength, she was still a kind-hearted soul. Frieren, I'm on a journey too. Normally, I'd be sleeping by now. Akam, mine's a mission from Najunda. I'm carrying it out with Leon. Even though the empire had changed hands and now belonged to Rao, it wasn't easy to reform such a deeply corrupt system overnight. Building a new empire still required massive effort. Military and security matters had been entrusted to Asdeath, who was establishing a reformed Jaeger squad led by Kuram. Administrative affairs were handled by Najunda. Nitrade was now a legitimate organization, shining its light in the country. Shino Aragi, sounds like you're all worn out. She herself had been busy. Her classes and her proctor duties had become haphazard. Mostly because now she could wield Shikamotoji without needing She even had the power of the original vampire progenitor behind it. But since her body couldn't fully handle that power yet, she'd started intense training, hoping to master Shikamotoji completely before departing. Shino Aragi, anyway, back to the main topic. What's this deal with Mumai? Anyone able to fill me in? Frieren, a perfect explanation would be a live stream. Rao, Yamagawa Iam. Yamagawa Iam, understood, I'll do it. Ding. Yamagawa Iam has started a live stream, everyone joined. Immediately they were greeted by a completely naked Rao, casually slipping on his clothes. Frieren, wow, I think there's a phrase from your world for this. Mai and the others called it an thunderbolt opening, right? Rao scowled, eyes twitching. Frieren, have you realized you've become a bit too urbanized? He couldn't believe the one aloof elf was quoting terms like thunderbolt opening. She must have been eavesdropping on Mai's slang. Friren, huh? Urbanized? Shinoeragi, that term's surprisingly apartment. Definitely an thunderbolt opening. Akam, I'm not seeing the problem. Friren, maybe you're just used to it, Akam. I guess I've gotten used to it too. Friren, Rao, why'd you arrive naked anyway? Yukina and Mumai wondered the same thing. While they stood there waiting, Rao had suddenly materialized in all his natural glory, startling them. Rao shrugged. Nothing I could do. I was in the middle of an, exchange with Mai and Taru. The situation came up unexpectedly. Shinoeragi, exchange? Are you saying? Friren, he's obviously talking about that. You'll get used to it eventually. With Iam's help, Rao finished putting on his clothes, then turned to Mumai. Alright, let's go see your friend. Mumai, her cheeks still pink from embarrassment, nodded and led him out of the Koutetsuju carriage. At Iwata Station, by the front of the Koutetsuju, stood a towering black smoke frozen solid by Iam's icy arrows. Residents of both the train and the station gazed upon it in fear. Staring at the monster, Rao looked utterly unperturbed. Instead, he complimented Iam's handiwork. Iam, it looks like you've refined your skills further. Iam smiled politely. I'm doing my best, so I can be of more use to you, Rao-sama. Rao teased. Then I'll have to give you a proper reward soon. Eek. Iam blushed. She knew exactly what he meant by a reward. Rao-sama. Mumai interjected anxiously. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm worried we're running out of time for Horabi. Rao waved a hand calmly. Don't worry, she's not dead. Because Horabi had become the black smoke's core, she was still alive in some form. With a snap of his fingers, there was a boom. A torrent of flames erupted, setting the black smoke ablaze. Iam's frosty gaze sharpened, and in a flash, the remnants of the cabane forming the black smoke ignited under azure red fire, burned to nothing before they could even scream. From within the flames, a blue orb of light shot forth and landed gently on the ground in front of them. As the glow dissipated, it revealed a pulsating golden Kabanrai heart trapped in black, writhing with hyperactive virus infection. Horabi, nearly unrecognizable as human. Rao-sama, can you truly restore her from that state? Asked Yukina, frowning. She knew Rao had turned those fully infected by the Kabane virus back to human form before, but Horabi looked far beyond saving, more twisted than any normal Kabane. At least normal Kabane retained a vaguely human shape, while Horabi looked more like a living virus. Slinging an indifferent glance her way, Kajika gave a curt. Rao-sama said he can save her, so he can. Rao raised a hand, indicating for them to be quiet. No need to argue. Restoring her really isn't complicated. From his perspective, Horabi differed significantly from a typical Kabane. A Kabane was effectively a reanimated corpse driven by the virus, requiring actual resurrection powers to return fully to life. But Horabi wasn't dead, she'd been artificially turned into a black smoke core, akin to a Kabanrai. Her own consciousness lay dormant, suppressed by the hyperactive virus. So if he just neutralized the virus, Horabi would awaken. He crouched down, placing a hand on the single patch of skin left uncorrupted by the black matter near her chest. Whoosh! In an instant, Horabi ignited in flames, much like the black smoke moments ago. Mumai recoiled in alarm, thinking Rao might be burning Horabi alive. But then she remembered the trade. And Rao had promised to help. Surely he wouldn't kill her. Indeed, within 2 or 3 seconds, Horabi's inhumanly mutated body began to shift. The virus burned away, reduced to ash by the blaze. Her human form emerged, unclothed, so Rao draped his jacket over her. Geez, my poor jacket's always the sacrifice, Rao thought wryly, recalling he'd also left another jacket with Fujimiya Sumika. Yet Mumai stood there in utter shock. The distinctive Kabanrai heart Horabi once had was gone? She should have been a Kabanrai before. Chapter 195, The Fool, certainly not Klein. Seeing Horabi, whose mutation was extremely severe, fully restored caught many people in the group chat off guard. Friren, strange. She was already like that, yet she could still be restored? How did he do it? Friren, I recall Rao mentioning that if the Kabane mutation was too severe, it couldn't be reversed. Shizu Aizawa, Rao isn't who he used to be. He's a lot stronger now. Shizu Aizawa, both Sister Velzard and Sister Velgren said he's not far behind him anymore. Shinoeragi, though I'm not sure how powerful he truly is, I have seen him easily kill the first progenitor. Friren, so he grew stronger. That explains it. Friren, makes sense. Yamagawa Iam, Rao-sama, truly amazing. Akam, that person's waking up. Horabi's expression twisted slightly as she slowly opened her eyes. She sat up in confusion, looking down at the warm jacket draped over her, with no clue what was going on. Mumai, the trade is done, but I'd like to know what exactly happened, Rao addressed Mumai. Mumai. Hearing that name, Horabi's memories became clearer. She recalled injecting the black plasma in front of Mumai, following the young master's plan to become a black smoke. She should have ended up fulfilling Biba's strategy. Yet here she was, alive. Yes. I'll tell you everything, Rao-sama, Mumai answered through pressed lips. Rao then spoke to Ayam, Kajika, and Yukina. Go ahead and move her to the train car. You can explain the rest to her. Understood. Horabi-san, this way, please. Horabi realized she was alive. Certainly because of Mumai and this stranger before her. She gave Mumai and Rao each a complicated look, then rose with the jacket wrapped around her and followed Ayam's group into the carriage. After that, Mumai recounted in detail everything that had occurred. When she finished, Rao arched an eyebrow and snorted, so Biba did all that just to witness my power. Calling it challenging a god. He couldn't fathom Amatori Biba's logic. For the sake of revenge, the man toyed with all sorts of crazy tactics. And now apparently wanted to provoke him, the so-called god, so as not to interfere with his vengeance. Mumai lowered her head in turmoil. She no longer knew how to feel about her brother. The way he'd treated Horabi, like a disposable pawn, terrified her. His cold, detached gaze showed he didn't view Horabi as a subordinate or even a person. She had no idea how to face such a brother. While Mumai's thoughts churned, Rao glanced up at a nearby building, lips curving into a faint smile. Challenging me comes at a cost, Mumai. Want to come along and visit your brother, face to face? Huh? Mumai blinked. Next instant, she felt her body lighten. The god. And the god's priestess, is it? On the top floor of a multi-story building, Amatori Biba was frowning deeply, gazing off into the distance where the black smoke had vanished. He'd seen the black smoke freeze over near the Kautetsuju, then get obliterated by flame soon after. No human should have been able to handle a black smoke that swiftly, even his hunters were no match. He suspected this so-called god and priestess rumored to be on the Kautetsuju were indeed extraordinary. It seems I'll have to keep a closer watch on the Kautetsuju. As for any talk of gods or priestesses, he didn't believe in superstition. In his eyes, the enemy had merely mastered a more potent use of the Kabane virus. After spending so many years researching it, along with Kabanrai and the virus itself, he thought he had near complete knowledge. Yet he hadn't the faintest clue how anyone could so effortlessly dispose of the black smoke. If I could get my hands on that research. A glint flashed in Biba's eyes. Completing his revenge against his father would be much easier. You're curious about power? I'd like to know what power you're hoping for. Who's there? Biba spun around at the unexpected voice. Mumai. He saw Mumai first, but realized immediately the voice belonged to the man at her side. Brother. Mumai herself was confused as to how she'd appeared in front of Biba. She hadn't even registered that Trail must have whisked her here with some mysterious ability. So you're Amatori Biba? Mumai's brother, trying to challenge the so-called god and priestess on the Kautetsuju? Rao eyed Biba with amusement. Biba briefly studied Mumai's guilty expression. He presumed she must have leaked his information but showed no strong reaction, keeping his refined air. I am indeed Amatori Biba. May I ask who you are and how? And why? You came here? After all, his hunters were supposed to be patrolling this area. How had Rao arrived so silently, bringing Mumai along? Rao. Also known as the god you want to challenge. With a calm gesture, Rao crooked a finger. Pop. Biba's coat ripped open. 3 black and white syringes tumbled from beneath his clothes, hovering in midair, some filled with black fluid, one with white. Staring in shock, Biba mentally threw out words like sorcery or witchcraft. Black plasma. Hypercharges the Kabane virus so a Kabanrai becomes a black smoke core. White plasma. Suppresses the virus's activity. All in all, your research in this world isn't half bad. Rao casually identified the 2 different substances. Biba's expression darkened. How did this man know everything, including the properties of black and white plasma? Details even Mumai wouldn't know? Surely someone among his researchers had betrayed him. He resolved to track them all down and have them executed. But alas, he himself was out of time. Ugh! He suddenly cried out in pain, eyes wide with horror as he clutched his chest. 3 of the black fluid syringes had jammed themselves into his heart. In the next moment, all 3 needles pressed down simultaneously, injecting the black plasma into his body. And of course, the one responsible was none other than Rao. Realizing he was losing consciousness, Biba panicked. My revenge hasn't even started. I can't die here. He refused to let his years of planning go to waste. Survival instincts flaring, he desperately reached out for the white plasma. If he could just get it, maybe he could turn things around. Chapter 196, Die Trying. Amatori Biba strained with all his might, desperately trying to grab the white plasma that floated so tantalizingly close. Just as his fingertips were about to brush the vial, he gasped in horror, "What?" The white plasma zoomed away, landing neatly in Rao's hand. "Since you said you wanted to challenge me," Rao remarked coolly, "I'll give you the strongest form you could possibly take. Let's see what that does for you." Holding the vial of white plasma, he smirked as he summoned flame to incinerate it. "You!" Biba's expression twisted with rage. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, dark, viral matter began gushing from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. The virus had gone hyperactive, and his body was mutating. "Brother." Mumai stared at Rao in bewilderment. "Rao-sama, why are you?" "Why?" "There's no why." Rao's tone was cold. "He tried to pick a fight with me. Nobody gets to do that without consequences. Even if he's your so-called brother. He genuinely did not care if someone was a brother, father, mother. If they provoked him, he would deal with them without hesitation. A powerful being didn't need a reason to kill someone who annoyed him. Annoyance itself was reason enough. Letting Biba ascend to the world's apex as a black smoke was already more mercy than he deserved. Of course, Rao didn't plan to drag the innocent people of Iwado Station into this. So with a brief transfer spell, he took the now mutating Biba and Mumai to a remote wilderness. Yo! Black matter engulfed Biba's entire body, while the Kabinari heart in his chest glowed fiercely with golden light. Boom! The ground shook, hordes of Kabane converged on their location, drawn by the virus's overpowering energy. Mumai suddenly realized her brother was now in the same condition as Horabi had been. She wanted to plead for him. But before she could open her mouth, Rao spoke quietly, "Mumai, don't say something that will annoy me, even if I am interested in you. Cross me, and there's no saving you." Mumai's body froze. She could sense from Rao's tone that he wouldn't budge. She also remembered the trade had already been completed, she had no standing to ask for further favors. If she dared to plead for Biba, she suspected Rao would cast her aside permanently. The internal struggle was reflected in her eyes. In the end, she remembered how Horabi was treated. How Biba had sacrificed her. A faint sense of relief surfaced in her heart. Mumai chose silence. In the conflict between Rao and her brother, she sided with Rao. It wasn't some romantic feeling. Just a change in her perspective. Spending time with Iam and the others, following the group chat's various broadcasts, had widened her worldview. Even though Biba had saved her life once, after witnessing his callous treatment of Horabi, someone who revered him, she could no longer see him through rose-tinted glasses. His habit of creating black smokes at the cost of other people's lives, all to test Iam, had shattered her devotion to him. Previously, she might have blindly obeyed his orders in a feverish adoration. Now, she had matured enough to recognize his cruelty. She still felt a pang of guilt, but she had done what she could. So she chose to stand by Rao's side, watching everything unfold in silence. Rao had expected Mumai to have some dramatic meltdown over her big brother. Seeing her do nothing, he was a bit surprised. And impressed. Roar. By then, the massive swarm of Kabane had fused with Biba's mutating body. Thanks to the triple injection of black plasma, the virus's hyperactivity was off the charts, attracting a colossal number of Kabane. As more and more fused, a towering giant rose, hundreds of meters tall. Vaguely horse-shaped, yet with enormous, sky-darkening wings. Amatori Biba, Suitably dramatic that you turned into a flying horse black smoke. Rao couldn't help a wry remark. Then he yawned. No more Kabane are coming. I guess this is the best you can do. Indeed, it was likely the largest singular black smoke this world could produce. Still, to Rao, it was just a big target, easily crushed if he felt like it. Oh? Striking first? With a heavy hum, the colossal, horse-like black smoke raised an enormous black hoof, stomping down on them both. From a normal viewpoint, it was a scene of pure despair, the sky blotted out, everything going dark as a gigantic pillar of flesh slammed toward them. There was no place to run. The stomp radius alone was huge. Even if Mumai was Kabinari, she was little more than a strong human. One hit, and she'd be flattened. Reflexively, Mumai threw up her arms to shield herself. It was futile. If she'd been alone, she would have died instantly. But Rao was with her. He merely flicked a finger through the air, shing. A massive, razor-sharp sword slash pierced the sky. Splurt. The giant hoof, once blocking out the sun, was sliced apart with one blow. In the blink of an eye, the slash cut straight through the towering horse, through its core, and through Amatori Biba's protected heart within. But the sword door didn't stop there. It carried on like a silver bolt of lightning, streaking up into the sky. Where it vanished, the blue sky split with a massive gash, as though the heavens themselves were torn open. The aftershocks alone were enough to shatter the nearby mountain ranges. Rao eyed the devastation he'd wrought, his face impassive. Sword Chi was probably one of the weakest of his abilities, yet using it to finish off Biba felt like killing a chicken with a cannon. A total waste. Sensing the sunlight falling back over them, Mumai lowered her arms. She saw the shattered mountains, the halved black smoke, the rent sky. Everything was laid bare before her. She'd witnessed wonders more than once, but this level of destruction surpassed all she'd seen. She gazed dazedly at Rao's profile. Each time he appeared, he did so like a true god. Rao snapped his fingers, and any attempt by the colossal black smoke's remains to break apart was burned away, leaving nothing. Then he patted the stunned Mumai on the shoulder. Let's go back. Chapter 197, Let the Trade Begins. Inside the Kautetsuju. Having learned the general situation from Ayam, Horabi never imagined she would be saved. By that man she'd briefly seen, the one who draped his jacket over her. The fact that he had somehow returned her from a state of hyperactive virus infection to being fully human was more than enough to astound her. At the same time, Horabi was also taken aback that the one who requested Rao, the man who saved her, to do so had been Mumai. Why would she save me? Horabi couldn't comprehend it. She had sacrificed herself for the young master's plan, and as a member of the hunters, she was fully resolved to carry out every one of his orders. Even if it meant giving up her life. She believed Mumai, as the young master's loyal claw, would do the same, even though Mumai might be unaware of how the young master was using her. Yet Mumai's actions directly undermined Biba's plan and might have cost him everything. Why would Mumai do something like this? Horabi muttered, deeply perplexed. Of course, Ayam and the others couldn't answer for Mumai, the only one who could was Mumai herself. Just then, Mumai returned with Rao. In Horabi's disbelieving eyes, they appeared out of nowhere inside the carriage. She stared at them silently, no idea what sort of power could accomplish such a sudden teleportation. One thing was certain, it was definitely not the work of Kabane or Kabinerai. Words like sorcery or witchcraft sprung to her mind. Perhaps even the label god, given how talk of a god and priestess had spread through the Kautetsuju. Rao gave Horabi a once-over. Looks like you're doing well. There aren't any side effects, right? I'm pretty confident in my methods. Horabi shook her head gently. No. No discomfort at all. She bowed her head in gratitude. I don't know how you managed to restore my humanity, but... Thank you. Don't thank me too soon, Rao cut in. Your dear young master just got wiped out by me. What? Horabi shot to her feet, eyes wide with disbelief, and glanced toward Mumai. The other girl's expression was complicated, but she nodded. My brother has... lost in the challenge against Rao-sama. Mumai tactfully chose the word lost rather than outright died. It was her last small gesture of respect for Biba in Horabi's eyes. Horabi fell into a dazed silence. She knew little about the exact details, but she could guess the broad strokes. The so-called god in the Kautetsuju was the man Biba had wanted to test by turning her into a black smoke. Judging by the result, she was alive while Biba, her young master, was dead. His plan had failed catastrophically. It was over. Everything Biba had worked toward was for nothing. A bitter yet liberated smile flickered across Horabi's lips. So now I'm your captive. Do with me as you will. To her mind, any enemy would naturally kill off loose ends. She was ready to die. Do you want to die? Rao asked, brow raised. I don't know. Horabi's response was surprisingly honest. On one hand, she wanted to live. On the other, with Biba gone, she had no purpose. She'd lived to fulfill Biba's plan, and now that plan had crumbled. You're pretty straightforward. Rao gave a thoughtful nod, then turned to Mumai. Anyway, I only saved her because of your request. Whatever happens next is up to you two to talk out. He then motioned for Ayam, Kajika, and Yukina to follow him out. The rest of you, come with me. Leaving the space to Horabi and Mumai. They locked eyes a moment. Horabi spoke first. Did the young master give any final orders before he left? No, Mumai answered with a shake of her head. I see. Horabi didn't probe further about Biba. Instead, her gaze drifted to the ribbon on Mumai's neck. Then she asked softly. Mumai, do you not want to become human again? Me? Mumai froze. She had never considered it. Until now, she was Biba's claw, a Kabinerai whose sole purpose was to kill Kabane. Human or not, that was all she had cared about. But now she was no longer bound to Biba. Did being Kabinerai matter anymore? If anyone could restore a Kabinerai to being fully human, it would be Rao. Mumai's mind spun. Horabi just observed her expression and silently made out her own conclusions. Meanwhile, Rao hadn't spared a thought for Ayam and Kajika. Instead, his gaze rested on Yukina, making her squirm in discomfort. Rao-sama, why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? She asked hesitantly. No, Rao replied. But I heard from Ayam and Kajika that you, too, wish to become a priestess? Like they are? Ah. Yukina spun around to see Ayam and Kajika giving her little thumbs-up gestures of encouragement. That was when she realized she'd been set up by those two. From their expressions and gestures, Rao also pieced it together. They had secretly told him about Yukina being shy, wanting to ask but never daring. So it seems, Yukina, that you weren't entirely aware of this? Rao said with a small smile. Kajika, that trick of yours might warrant some punishment. Eek. Both women stiffened. Not from fear but excitement. Their breathing quickened. For them, so-called punishment from Rao was the greatest reward. Sigh. Rao could only roll his eyes at their reactions. Pampering them too much clearly had its downsides. Anyway, if it was all a misunderstanding, let's just forget it, he said, unwilling to force the issue. But Yukina suddenly found her voice. I do want to become your priestess, Rao-sama, just like Ayam and Kajika. I want those amazing powers as well. Yet her expression was still uncertain, as though something weighed heavily on her mind. Sensing her worry, Rao asked gently. You seem anxious. Want to tell me what's wrong? After a long pause, Yukina finally mustered courage. Rao-sama. I'm afraid that someone like me isn't someone you'd ever want. Oh? Rao was intrigued. And what sort of person do you think you are? Biting her lip, Yukina lifted her shirt slightly, revealing the slender lines of her toned stomach and a faint outline of ABS. She murmured self-consciously, a total gearhead who loves machinery. I'm muscly. Not womanly or graceful, nothing like Ayam-sama's beauty or Kajika's sweet empathy. I'm the opposite of a ladylike princess. Indeed, she'd never asked for a trade before because she assumed her more athletic physique would put Rao off, that he'd find her unattractive. But that was where she was mistaken. Not only did Rao accept all sorts of special women, but her body was hardly unfeminine. She was trim, her muscles simply lean and tight. Her toned midriff possessed a subtle definition that Rao found rather appealing. MMPH. Yukina, bracing for rejection, suddenly let out a yelp as Rao leaned down and placed a slow, warm kiss upon her ABS. So swiftly that she only managed a tiny squeak before slapping a hand over her mouth. Her eyes went wide with alarm. She could feel his breath gliding over her skin. Even circling her navel briefly. Making her head spin. Moments later, Rao straightened and pulled her into his arms. I find this quite appetizing, actually. Do you think that's a sign of dislike? He teased. Ugh. Yukina's face blazed scarlet. She was certain she had never felt so embarrassed in her entire life. Meanwhile, Ayam and Kajika watched enviously from the side. Yukina, in her mortification, felt something else, too, relief. The insecurities she had about being too tomboyish ebbed away. Relaxing into Rao's embrace, she whispered. Rao-sama. Please let me become your priestess. I'm ready to give you everything. Ding. Yukina has initiated a trade request, trade details, she's willing to devote herself to Rao. Ding. Please set the trade terms. Having come this far, Rao obviously wouldn't leave anything out. A new trade alert appeared. Ding. Trade initiated, trade partner, Yukina, trade details, she dedicates herself to Rao. Trade terms, unlimited body usage rights. Duration, 24 hours. Chapter 198, another trade. Horabi. Not bad, Stella, what the heck? Stella, I'm just waking up, and now Rao has taken in 2 more girls? Stella, and what was he doing, leaning over that girl just now? Having gotten up in the middle of the night, Stella glanced over the chat messages in confusion. Mumai, Yukina. 2 of them. Frieren, basically, Mumai wanted Rao to save someone who'd transformed into a sort of Cobain-like state, so she made a trade with him. Frieren, as for what Rao was doing just then, it looks like he was kissing that girl named Yukina on her insecure ABS, giving her confidence in her body. Frieren, and well, it went from there. Frieren, sigh, Rao is really something. With just a few words, he's got another young lady wrapped around his finger. Stella. Stella had to believe it. Her roommate Kurogane Shizuku had fallen for Rao at first sight. Sometimes she even wondered whether Rao had some succubus-like power or something. Otherwise, how could he conquer so many women both inside and outside the group chat? Yamagawa. Actually, Yukina has admired Rao-sama for a while, but she was hesitant, so Kajika and I gave her a little push. Stella. I really don't get you all. Yamagawa. Eh? Why do you say that? Stella, if you all like Rao so much, why do you keep handing him off to others? Don't you feel any jealousy or possessiveness? That was what Stella truly couldn't understand. In her view, people should be selfish, more possessive. If it were her boyfriend, she'd definitely chase other women away. Why not keep your man's love all to yourself? Ayam had her own answer. Yamagawa Ayam, well, we aren't exactly Rao-sama's lovers. We're his priestesses, serving him. We're not in a position to question his choices. Yamagawa Ayam, and besides, Rao isn't the kind of man who can be looked after by just one or two people. Frieren, right. Remember that time in Akam's world at the hot spring? There were a bunch of us there. Akam, yes, 5 people. Iragi Shinoa, how did that go? She was intrigued. 5 people at once? Shinoa didn't really get shy about these topics. Akam, everyone ended up completely limp and exhausted, but Rao was still full of energy. Shinoa, got it. So Rao, the group leader, really is inhumanly overpowered. Stella. She didn't want to comment. She'd been right there at the hot spring, listening to every bit of noise. One voice after another reaching high pitch, followed by the wet slapping overwhelming all other sounds, until everything quieted down. Rao had obviously emerged a big victor. When he stepped out of the water, Akam and the others were trembling, while Rao was completely composed. Stella understood Ayam and the others on some level, such a pervert. But all she could do was mumble it behind his back. Seeing that Yukina finally got what she wanted, Kajika was also relieved. Yukina got her wish, and they gained another companion to serve Rao together. Ayam and Kajika alone weren't enough. Even if they each had 3 places to use, it was nowhere near enough. Add Yukina. And maybe Mumai if she came around. Just as Kajika was thinking that, Mumai emerged from the carriage. She says Horabi seems to have something to tell you, Mumai informed Rao respectfully. She didn't know why Horabi suddenly requested to speak with him, but she was just passing on the message. Rao raised his eyebrows. Alright, I'll go see what she wants. Going in alone, he found Horabi sitting there in a doji position, naked except for the jacket lying to one side. She placed it aside, bowing deeply, waiting for him. What are you doing now? Rao asked, puzzled. Rao-sama. Horabi lifted her head, speaking seriously, Mumai saved my worthless life. Even though I was fully prepared to die, the fact remains that she saved me. I owe her a debt of gratitude. I've learned about the trade Mumai made with you. Would it be possible for me to pay her side of the cost in her place? No. He refused without hesitation. A long time ago, Yuriko Takagi had asked the same question, and his answer hadn't changed. There were certain rules he wouldn't break. I see. Horabi showed no surprise. She wasn't arrogant enough to think her long-trained body could sway him, especially compared to the petite youthfulness of Mumai. Still, she wasn't dejected, either. Instead, she unveiled a second suggestion to repay the debt. Then how about making another trade with me? Oh? Rao cast a lingering glance over her not-too-bad figure, curious about what she had in mind. What do you want? Horabi lowered her voice. I hope you'll turn Mumai back into a human. You have that power. I can do that easily. Rao knelt down in front of Horabi, lifting her chin so she met his gaze with unwavering eyes. You want to use this method to repay Mumai's kindness? Yes. Horabi nodded plainly. She didn't want to owe Mumai anything. Earlier, she had asked Mumai if she wanted to become human again, and Mumai hadn't given a definite answer, but Horabi could see in Mumai's expression that she'd shed the shadow of her brother. Horabi wanted to nudge her forward. Let the poor girl return to humanity and begin a new life. Rao, reading Horabi's thoughts, merely chuckled softly. Just because I can do something easily doesn't mean you can afford the cost. I swear upon my entire being. All of me will be yours. Even if you command me to end my life right now, I won't hesitate. Horabi's tone was resolute. That was everything she could offer. All right then. Kill yourself. Right here, right now. Rao's voice was cold, challenging her to do it. Smack. With a crisp noise, Rao's right hand intercepted Horabi's palm. Which, without any sign of reluctance, had been about to strike her own neck, enough to sever an artery. The moment Rao gave the order, she'd attempted suicide with full force. But Rao had no real intention of letting her die, he only wanted to test her. So, at the last second, he stopped her blow. Chapter 199, Live Stream, Fan Service. Eyeing Horabi, who had nearly committed suicide yet remained outwardly calm, Rao couldn't help voicing his amazement. You're so loyal. You have a good figure and attractive looks. How could Amatori Biba fail to appreciate a capable subordinate like you and send you to your death? The young master had his reasons, Horabi started to explain. But Rao narrowed his eyes. Since you said you want to become my property, don't start talking about your young master anymore. Do you actually like that guy? Horabi hesitated for a moment, then spoke very seriously. No, I don't. In the past, I merely admired him. I also knew about the sins he carried out. As for me now, having died once and been reborn, Amatori Biba is just a passerby. That's the freedom I've gained. Having faced death, she seemed open-minded about it. Rao had no interest in probing her thoughts further, what he wanted was to see what she would actually do. Great. I accept your trade. Rao stood up. The brief little test he had just done was satisfactory. You should know what to do by now, right? His gaze fell on her from above, indicating her next step with a calm look. Horabi froze for an instant. Seeing exactly where her face was positioned told her what she needed to do. Though she had never done such a thing, she understood. Observing her decisive, direct approach, Rao felt even more satisfied. He couldn't help thinking how Amatori Biba had let his narrow-minded revenge overshadow his masculinity. To think he had both Mumai, an innocent little girl, and Horabi, pure yet loyal, beautiful, with warm, soft lips and clumsy yet steadily improving technique. Right by his side and only used them as pawns. His death was truly deserved, what a waste. Since Rao was satisfied, he gave her a genuine token for the transaction. Ding. You have chosen to add the target Horabi to join the trading group chat. Receiving knowledge from the group chat's subgroup, Horabi paused, halting her movement. Seizing the moment, Rao went deeper and said, initiate a trade with me. After that, you'll belong to me. Even though it was rather large and uncomfortable for her, Horabi still obeyed and began sending him a trade request. Ding. Horabi has initiated a trade request. Trade details. Turn Yumai from a Kabanari back into a normal human. Ding. Please select your trade conditions. No matter what terms Rao demanded, Horabi was ready to agree immediately. Ding. Trade initiated. Trading partner, Horabi. Trade details. Turn Yumai from a Kabanari back into a normal human. Trade terms. Unlimited body usage rights. Duration, 24 hours. Huh? Outside the carriage, Ayam and the other three felt a jolt go through them. Before they could react, Mumai had already rushed inside, followed by a glance among Ayam's companions, prompting them to go in as well. There they saw Horabi fulfilling her obligations. Mumai ran up and, biting her lip, spoke, Horabi, I don't need you to do anything for my sake. But Horabi wasn't in any position to answer. She needed to focus on controlling the huge object extending deep into her throat. Rao turned his head, noticing all of them had come in. With a snap of his fingers, the door locked. Licking his lips, he shot them a grin that made everyone tense up. So you're all here. Well then, how about we all lie down and have a nice long chat? He pulled Mumai to him first. Fryron, it's starting again. Akam, you sound excited? Fryron, MMHM. This is a perfect chance to observe the mystery of Rao's stamina. Fryron no longer held back. She pulled out her notebook to take notes. Shino Aragi, he always goes for such bold moves? Akam, Rao really likes occupying one person while using both hands to amuse himself. Shino Aragi. It sounds like you have some experience. Akam, Kuram, Leon, and the others have that experience as well. Shino Aragi, I don't know who they are, but Rao sure knows how to indulge. She couldn't help swallowing. It reminded her of some aristocratic vampire lording over his harem. But he did have an incredible physique, far surpassing any uniformed soldier she'd seen in the Imperial Demon Army. Not to mention the school she currently attended. Those boys had scrawny arms and legs, especially that target she was monitoring, Yuichiro Hyakaya. He was small and gave off a weak vibe. Stella, She intended to say something but thought better of it. Stopping Rao? This was his own group chat scenario. Where would she even start? Not to mention, seeing such a scene had stirred heat within her, making her too flustered to sleep. Biting her lip, Stella exclaimed, I'm going to bed. But as the scene turned more explicit, Ayam's livestream kept rolling. Stella was the first to escape, at least verbally. Yet even then, her face was red as she eyed her right hand. Damn it. She bit her lip in shame but couldn't resist letting her hand creep out again. Before she could start, however, she heard Kurogane Shizuka's voice, freezing her hand in place at that private area. She's not asleep? Though Stella claimed she was leaving, the number of people in the live stream didn't drop at all. In fact, it was even higher than the main group's count, implying many from other sub-chats were watching. The real discussion was happening in Stella's World's chat group. Tukatatu, Riraokan is. What's he doing? Even though she was the strongest student council president, Tukatatu had zero experience in matters of men and women. Her entire focus had always been on swordsmanship. So waking at dawn for a morning practice, Stumbling on this live stream left her mind totally blank. Kurogane Shizuku, hee. Rei-sama is just dishing out some fan service, you know she wasn't asleep after all. Thought Stella. Seeing Kurogane Shizuku's message, she was certain. She didn't dare start pleasuring herself. The chat had already been loud with arguments, and she had no wish to join the hubbub, contradicting herself with bizarre acts that would shatter her princessly image of consistent words and deeds. She lay there quietly, letting her palm rest in place, lightly shifting while watching both the live stream and the group chat. Chapter 200, Be Happy and Party. Tuka, what do you mean, fan service? Noticing an odd reaction in her body, Tuka hurried back to her private dorm room. Watching the live stream made her entire body hot. She put down her sword and sat on the edge of her bed, skirt pulled tight together, attempting to understand what Kurogane Shizuku meant by fan service. But in the midst of those bright, intertwined bodies on screen, her head spun and her face burned. Kurogane Shizuku, have you really never, released your stress by yourself? Tuka, you mean a thorough, all-out duel? I did that once, against Stella. Kurogane Shizuku, oh so you're a total newbie in that sense. Shizuku realized then that Tuka was truly innocent. Her eyes gleamed with mischievous delight, and even the movement of her own hands momentarily stopped. Kurogane Shizuku, alright, let me teach you, since I lost to you in our duel. This is my chance to return the favor. Recalling her unwilling defeat at Tuka's hands, Shizuku grinned deviously. Next, she would personally guide the naive Tuka Tautu into a whole new world. Slightly vengeful, Shizuku planned to get her win in this arena. Kurogane Shizuku, I'll guide you step by step. First, you take your fingers and lightly. Stella, reading along, noticed how Shizuku was instructing Tuka in an addictive behavior. She instantly recognized Shizuku's malicious intentions. That girl is actually teaching her this? Stella couldn't comprehend what was going on in Shizuku's head. Wasn't this absolutely corrupting Tuka? She debated whether to intervene and stop the guidance, but then she saw how meticulous Shizuku was being, explaining each detail. Stella gaped in shock. This was completely different from her own clumsy groping. Shizuku's method was far more refined. The most critical point was that, on the live stream, Rei-a was focusing his main attack on Horabi while also using a method similar to Shizuku's explanation on Mumai. Mumai's stubborn yet muddled submission assaulted Stella's senses. She couldn't help wondering, could it really work like that? Curiosity seized her, and before she realized it, she was following Shizuku's detailed pointers. And mimicking Rei-a's demonstration, a completely different, straight-to-the-brain sensation nearly made Stella cry out. She stiffened, eyes wide, biting her lip to keep quiet, worried Shizuku might notice. But she couldn't stop. To be fair, Shizuku clearly knew what she was doing. Both Stella and Tuka had discovered a whole new world. Brother. In the carriage, Mumai mumbled weakly in her sleep. She wasn't calling out for Amatori Biba. The brother she now had in mind was Rei-a, who had, in a sense, filled Mumai's longing for familial affection. Most of it was physical filling, but it was a conquest nonetheless. Horabi and Kaku, the stubborn one, presumably Kun or someone else, were also his now. Rei-a didn't neglect anyone, giving all three of them their own blessings. Name, Mumai, Level 1, Abilities, Dragon Power, Wind Spirit, Rei-a's Blessing, Inherent Device, Wind Gun, Name, Horabi, Level 1, Abilities, Fire Dragon Power, Rei-a's Blessing, Inherent Device, Burning. He wasn't surprised by what Horabi or Mumai got. But Yukina was a different story. Name, Yukina, Level 1, Abilities, Dragon Power, Metal Magic, Rei-a's Blessing, Inherent Device, Machinery, Held Item, Grimoire, Metal Frenzy. Metal Magic? Grimoire, Metal Frenzy? Never mind how the magic worked. The Grimoire's name sounded casual. Yukina hadn't received any spirit or demon abilities, but instead got magic and a bizarre magic tome. Her ability was linked to a library of knowledge, resembling the magical power of Hijiri Kasuga's world. This was the first time someone receiving Rei-a's blessing awakened that kind of ability. Is it because I became a demon king in Hijiri Kasuga's world and somehow absorbed demon king factors? Or because I possess Grimoire powers? Whatever the reason, facts were facts. And that ability actually suited Yukina. She could manipulate and shape metal via magic, so Rei-a didn't dwell on it. Glancing around at the four of them sprawled out in various positions, Rei-a felt quite fulfilled. Dawn had arrived, morning light outside. Before he could savor his victory more. Like a certain creamy puff. Hiratsuka Shizuka called him in the group chat. Hiratsuka Shizuka, you brat, do you really have that insatiable libido? She had woken early, seen the group's steamy live stream, and was astonished beyond words. Taru, ugh, obviously all of Rei-a's essence should belong to me. Those thieves. Sakura Jimimai, Mai didn't bother responding. She'd woken up that morning to find her body covered in weird marker scribbles with suspicious measurements that wouldn't wash off. Mortified, she presumed Rao had done it. Even dressed neatly, she was worried something might show through. She fully intended to give him an earful when he returned. Taru, quite proud of her art, felt she'd gotten some payback from Mai's snooping. Yet she could only watch helplessly at the image of Rao with other women in that separate world. Rao, life is short. Why not enjoy it now? Hiratsuka Shizuka, hey, you sure do know how to indulge. Turn every gathering into a party, right? Shizuka swallowed hard. To be honest, she felt a spark of interest in trying it for herself, though she feigned restraint in her words. Hiratsuka Shizuka, TCH, you planning on skipping school again today to keep going? Rao, no need to skip. Mumai and the others are worn out, I'll head back soon. Hiratsuka Shizuka, hey, here I was thinking you'd stay lost in that den of pleasure and never come home. Rao, hey, there are other worlds with their own pleasures, right? Why limit myself? By the way, Sonamk, Yumiko, Megumi, Shizuka. Why not all come over to my place with Mai sometime? We can have a little party. His masked intentions were finally revealed. Everyone could see the real meaning. He wasn't talking about a normal party, but a mass harem event. Chapter 201, Party Rejected, Panty. Rao issued his party invitation. Everyone had different reactions. Machida-san no go, though I might feel awkward about doing it in front of others, I'm okay with it. Kasamijoka Utaha. This editor's behavior is so strange. How can she adapt so easily to a multi-person party? This is too crazy. Miro Yumiko, On no way, you perv. Kato Megumi, sorry, Rao-kun, but I might need more time. Kato Hiromi, you scared me for a second there. I thought Megumi was going to agree. Just imagining my little sister lined up with other people. Ugh, I can't bear to look. Too indecent. Kato Megumi, sis. Hiratsuka Shizuka, kid, you're pushing your luck. Rao, sigh, what a pity. A giant bed sleepover will need more time to build up to. I'll need to keep working at it. Kobashi. I feel like the direction you're working at is really off. Kasamijoka Utaha, not just off. Completely bizarre. Yukino Shita Yukino, ideally, you shouldn't work in that direction at all. People shouldn't behave that way. Ariri Sawamura, agreed. Ariri wholeheartedly agreed to stop Rao from his plan of sleeping under one big blanket. There were far too many rivals already. She was beyond jealous of Mumai and the others, but she couldn't bring herself to push for a trade. She could only convert her frustration into creative power, picking up her drawing pen to illustrate a scene of Rao doing to her what he'd done with Mumai. Sketching it made her blush furiously. Hiratsuka Shizuka, anyway, just try being late today. I dare you. Rao, try me? And if I am late? What, are you going to use a stick on me? Hiratsuka Shizuka? Yuagahama Yua. Rao-kun, please don't let your private life get so chaotic, or you'll get sick. She tried to be helpful, reminding him out of goodwill. Rao, thank you for the concern, but I won't get sick. No need to worry about that. Yuagahama Yua. Ugh. Her head sank lower as she ate breakfast. What am I even saying? That was such an awkward thing. Yua, what's wrong? Her mom asked, noticing Yua's strange expression. She'd recently observed Yua spacing out or looking abnormal from time to time, worried Yua might be dealing with some emotional issues. Yua perked up defensively. It's nothing, Mom. I'm totally fine. Yet gazing at her mother, Yua felt a surge of envy. If only I could be as mature as Mom, I wouldn't be stuck with so many worries. Indeed, Yua had a problem, the struggle of adolescence. She felt lost about her feelings for Rao. Suddenly, she had a sensation of the world spinning around her. Meanwhile, we're going to be late. Gab, why are you only up now? Glancing at the bed-headed, lifeless Gabriel, Raphael frowned. Gab seemed to have sunk too far into apathy. Huh? Late already? Gabriel blinked in surprise, then immediately lapsed back into her sleepy state and turned toward her bedroom. Wait, Gab, where are you going? It didn't make sense for her to shuffle off to her room instead of getting ready for school. But Gabriel yawned, since we're already late, might as well get some good sleep. Huh? You're going to skip class? Raphael understood. This was out of the question. She warned Gabriel sternly, if you skip class, Gab, your big sister might come here to educate you. Hearing that name, Gabriel froze mid-step on her way back to bed. That was her greatest fear. As if I'd skip. Of course not. Next second, she jerkily spun around and rushed into the bathroom. Even so, Gabriel didn't exactly hurry, She just moved sluggishly, driving Raphael crazy. Gab, if you keep dawdling, we really will be late. But Gabriel wasn't the least bit anxious. She wore a smug grin. Rafi, you seem to have forgotten. We're angels. I can teleport, so whoosh. I can get to school in an instant. So that was her plan. To cheat by teleporting. Alright, I'll head out with Ven and the others, then. Raphael hadn't perfected her own teleportation yet. Gabriel nodded vaguely. Only after Raphael left did Gab finish washing up, feeling a bit more awake. She grabbed her bag and used a teleport spell. In theory, she should appear in a hidden spot near the school. But she found herself still standing in the living room. Yet something had vanished with a whoosh. Gabriel's cheeks burned as she looked down at the sudden draft around her skirt, reflexively squeezing her legs shut. She realized she'd bungled the spell because of her lazy state. She hadn't teleported herself. She'd teleported her underwear. So her panties were now inside the school somewhere. My panties. Face red, Gabriel dashed back to her room. Arg, guess I really can't go to class today. If someone finds out those panties are mine, I might as well blow the world's final trumpet. Meanwhile, Rayao returned home and used teleportation to bring Mai, who for some reason was full of shame and awkwardness, to the school. That was why he wouldn't be late under Shizuka's watch. He could use teleportation. TSK. But the moment they arrived at school, a piece of cloth slapped against Rayao's face. Huh? Mai glimpsed the cloth Rayao peeled from his face and froze. It was a small white pair of panties with a little bear pattern on it. Rayao-kun, did you bring someone else underwear? Mai backed away, baffled. She couldn't imagine Rayao had teleported the underwear from Mumai or the others, given he had so many real-life options if he needed them. Especially since Rayao had just been at that party with Mumai, Horabi, etc. He was hardly so starved as to snatch a pair of panties. Mai believed in Rayao, but she was still perplexed about the panties' sudden appearance. What exactly were they? Chapter 202, reported to the student council. This isn't something I brought along. Rayao raised an eyebrow as he held the little undergarment in his hand. He recognized the familiar aura mingled with the faintly fallen scent on it. It seems to belong to Gabriel. She probably used a teleportation spell. Huh? Mai trusted him, but this explanation just left her more confused. Why would Gabriel teleport her underwear onto Rayao's face? Feeling the warmth of the cloth, Rayao's eyes flashed. He imagined the likeliest scenario. I think Gabriel was running late, tried using teleportation to get to school, but the spell misfired and this happened. What? Mai was astonished. An angel can mess up casting a spell? That's an angel. Rayao, she's fallen. One phrase shut down further argument. Mai couldn't find any rebuttal. Right. Gabriel was an angel who had sunk into gaming addiction and moral decline. From that viewpoint, a spell failure didn't seem impossible anymore. So these undergarments. Mai began, only to see Rayao casually stuff them into his pocket. I'll give them back to her later. Let's head to class. Mai's lips twitched. She already knew Rayao was not someone to be messed with, and now she didn't have the nerve to interfere in others' business. Especially since she had Rayao scribbled on her own chest, stomach, and thighs. Rather than worry about others, she had to ensure nobody noticed her own predicament. Otherwise, it'd be social suicide. Catching Rayao's puzzled look, she shot him a fierce glare and turned to walk toward her classroom. Is she jealous? Rayao, who didn't know what was really going on, could only assume so. In truth, Mai thought Rayao was indulging in one of his weird kinks and decided to tolerate it without mentioning anything. She planned to have him erase all those odd doodles when they got home that evening. Having just stepped back into the classroom, Rayao was met by Kato Megumi, who came over wearing a helpless expression. Rayao-kun, there's something important I need to tell you. Something important? Yes, we seem to have been reported. Or rather, falsely accused. Huh? Rayao was puzzled. Even Hayato Michiru, who had been watching Rayao closely since before he arrived, looked perplexed. During the mid-morning break, a group of students, people who practically never visited the student council, were gathered in the student council room. Rayao, Kato Megumi, Ayuri Sawamura, Kasumajoka Utaha, and Hayato Michiru. Four-side heroine girls plus the male lead, Rayao. Of course, the two in charge of the student council, Shinamiya Kaguya and Fujiwara Chika, were also present. They had called him, along with the other three girls, excluding Hayato Michiru, for a reason. After exchanging some simple greetings and niceties, they took out a letter. I assume you already know why we asked you to come. Did someone report us for shameless fooling around? Utaha folded her arms, her eyes narrowing in displeasure. Can you tell me who did this? I'm not the sort who lets an insult to my reputation slide. They had been brought here to investigate a so-called complaint letter. It accused the four of them of being entangled in unspeakable relationships, which, if true, would seriously violate school rules. That was why Kaguya needed to investigate. I'd like to know, too. Who would do something so disgusting? Ariri clenched her fists, exposing a little fang in frustration. Sure, she aimed to captivate Rao, but that didn't mean she had actually succeeded. Such a report was clearly a malicious attempt to ruin their reputations. If the student council had openly announced it and called them in, rumors would run wild even if they were proven innocent. Fortunately, Shinomiya Kaguya believed the letter's authenticity was questionable, so she quietly informed them in private. The person who reported this is my cousin, Aki Tomoya. The one who spoke was Hayato Michiru. Her expression looked grim. Huh? Ariri squeaked, her face turning pale. Him? But that's impossible? She wasn't the only one. Even Kasamijoka looked visibly unsettled, because that boy was known across the entire school as well, a deceased student. Ahem. Seeing both girls so shaken, Fujiwara Chika hastened to clarify, it's not a recent complaint. The letter was submitted before Aki Tomoya passed away. It just fell behind a desk and got lost. We only found it a couple of days ago during cleanup. I see. With that explanation, the tense mood eased. Ariri had just feared some ghostly accusation from beyond the grave. Her pale face recovered somewhat, though she still looked upset hearing that name. Megumi spoke in her usual calm tone, so, how do you plan to investigate this? That's. Kaguya and Fujiwara exchanged glances, both in a bind. Unless there were surveillance footage or photographic evidence, such claims were difficult to prove. Also, they couldn't launch a formal probe just from an unsigned, ambiguous complaint. While they hesitated, Rao took the initiative. This isn't difficult to settle. The others turned to him. Before their eyes, Rao reached out and took Megumi's hand. Among everyone present, only Megumi is my girlfriend. I'm not involved with the others. Eh? Hayato Michiru let out a startled cry. Rao-kun and Kato-san. A couple? She hadn't known. Seeing their fingers interlocked, she felt a small sting of disappointment, recalling the way Rao lectured her over the weekend. Fujiwara Chika's eyes lit up. She smelled juicy gossip. Kasamijoka and Iri both wore complicated expressions. Shinomiya Kaguya's cool eyes flickered slightly. She noticed an intense focus in Kato Megumi's gaze toward Rao, something Kaguya had never seen before. It was as though Megumi saw no one but him. Still, Kaguya knew her role and suppressed her curiosity. She frowned. Then how do you explain your relationship with Miss Sawamura and Miss Kasamijoka? No need to explain, Rao scoffed. There's nothing there, so what would I even explain? All I can tell you is, I had some conflict with that Aki Tomoya guy. He harassed Megumi, I beat him up. He also bothered Ariri, so I beat him up again. Megumi nodded, yes, Aki Tomoya tried forcing me into some strange club, and Rao-kun put a stop to it. He also turned on me after I cut ties with him, Ariri added. Even pushed me down the stairs in a rage, and Rao saved me. Iri looked a bit down. Meanwhile, Kasamijoka said seriously, he also invited me to join his club, which I refused. I see. In this situation, all their statements matched up, each from their own perspective. Fujiwara Chika brought her hands together. She'd whipped out a detective cap and glasses from who knew where. Hee, Detective Chika has arrived. After a silly cheer, she tried to analyze things in earnest. I've already figured out the answer. According to multiple consistent testimonies, assuming they haven't colluded, all the evidence points in one direction. She pointed at thin air. There is only one truth. Which is that it's very likely this Aki Tomoya, who had conflicts with you all, tried framing and slandering you. Fujiwara Chika was dumbfounded because the one delivering the final deduction wasn't her, but the ever-stoic Shinomiya Kaguya. Kaguya-chan. She looked at Kaguya with big, wounded eyes. Kaguya simply shot her a frosty look and said coolly, it's straightforward. No point dragging it out. But I wanted to be the one who declared the truth. Feeling as if her detective game was spoiled, Fujiwara Chika was on the verge of tears. She'd been building up to that moment, and now it felt wasted. Well, go ahead and say it, Kaguya offered calmly. Fujiwara Chika puffed up her cheeks. What could she say? Kaguya had already stated the conclusion. So he actually did such a thing. Hayato Michiru became more convinced by Rao's group's account. She'd heard that after leaving the hospital, Aki Tomoya's mental state grew obsessive. In that condition, it wasn't unthinkable he'd do something like this. She felt disappointed. Aside from pity, she had no feelings left for that cousin of hers. Rao spread his hands. I don't know exactly what was going on with him. But as Miss Fujiwara Chika pointed out, if we rule out collusion, Then we're each telling our own truths. He also hadn't lied. Out of everyone here, apart from Megumi, he really wasn't close to any of them. Did he indulge in messy relationships? Sure. But not with these particular people. Possibly with others. Even in other worlds. But those details had nothing to do with the matter at hand. Chapter 203, You and Yu's Mother Body Swap. What kind of hentai anime is this? After analyzing the known information, Shinami Kaguya sighed. Given the situation, we'll end things here. There is no conclusive evidence to support Taki Tomoya's accusations against you, and based on our assessment, it doesn't appear you have violated any school rules. That was her conclusion. It wasn't that the matter couldn't be investigated, but rather that investigating it served no real purpose. Aside from the time cost involved, even if they uncovered details, what difference would it make? So Kaguya merely added a caution, perhaps there hasn't been any wrongdoing up until now, but I must remind you, from now on, you must abide by school regulations. A hush fell over the group. Their gazes drifted, each person's thoughts unclear. The matter was basically settled, so they left the student council room. My detective game. Fujiwara Chika was still in her own world, sulking. Shinami Kaguya shot her a cold look. Secretary Fujiwara, I don't recall dealing with school affairs being any kind of detective game. Ah. Fujiwara Chika flinched. She'd nearly forgotten she couldn't act so carefree around Kaguya-chan when alone with her. I'm sorry, Kaguya-chan. Submissively admitting her mistake was the best move. Kaguya withdrew her gaze, turning back to the paperwork, yet found herself unable to focus. Her mind was filled with that odd, unwavering look Kato Megumi had directed toward Rao. Love. Her softly rounded lips moved as she whispered to herself, love? Detecting the keyword love as if by radar, Fujiwara Chika darted over. Kaguya-chan wants to talk about romance? You can't leave me out of that. Kaguya was at a loss. She'd only mumbled one word, yet the bane of the earth, Fujiwara Chika, had heard it. She was exactly the type Kaguya struggled with most. Meanwhile, after leaving the student council, Hayato Michiru turned to Rao, Kato Megumi, Ayuri Sawamura, and Kasumijoka Utaha. I'm sorry about my cousin's accusations, Rao-san, Megumi-san, Kasumijoka-san, and Sawamura-san. Yuri blinked in surprise. She hadn't known that Aki Tomoya had such a lovely cousin. Even if he was your cousin, it has nothing to do with you, Rao replied. And even if it was his fault, you're not the one who needs to apologize. Hayato Michiru gave a bitter smile. I just never expected him to pull something like this. Kasumijoka Utaha spoke up, anyway, with the truth out, there's no need to dwell on it. But her gaze narrowed mischievously at Rao. All we can say is, Aki Tomoya reported the wrong people. Yes, the wrong people indeed, Ayuri thought to herself. If he had accused Rao, Kato Megumi, and Sakurajima Mai, that might have been on target. From Utaha's remark, Rao of course understood the subtext, but merely gave a confident smile. Even if he'd accused me correctly, so what? As if he cared about minor school rules. Kato Megumi, Ayuri, and Utaha each had a knowing look. Right now, Rao probably didn't care about world rules, let alone school ones. To Hayato Michiru, it felt like the four were speaking in cryptic code. The matter concluded, they each headed back to their classrooms. Utaha left swiftly. Ayuri seemed like she wanted to say something but ultimately stayed silent. Service club, Yui's, Yukino Shita checked her phone for the time, raising an eyebrow. Yui was late. They had arranged an important matter for today. She had sent a message telling Yui to come to the service club, and Yui only replied okay, but never showed up. Huh? You want me to go to the service club with you? Miro Yumiko stared in astonishment at Yui, who blushingly clung to her, asking her to come along to the service club. All throughout the meeting, Yui hadn't even greeted her properly, which Yumiko already found strange. Now Yui wanted her to visit that service club, which Yui surely knew Yumiko didn't get along with, especially its leader Yukino Shita Yukino. What was going on? Yumiko, I'm just a bit scared. Could you come with me, please? Yui forced a timid expression, requesting a favor. Service club. In fact, the text from Yukino Shita Yukino surprised her. She was amazed her daughter had joined such an unorthodox-sounding group. Yes, you read that right, though the figure in front of us appears to be Yui. She's actually Yui's mother inhabiting Yui's body. The story goes back to that morning. Yui had looked flushed and dizzy all morning. Yui, what's wrong? You feeling unwell? Asked Yui's mother, worried, stepping closer. Mom, I feel faint. Yui's voice was limp, as though lacking energy. Realizing something was off, Yui's mother reached out to check her forehead temperature. The moment her hand touched Yui's brow, the world flipped. Everything spun. Yui's mother saw herself. Mom? No. Me? Yua blinked, touching her own face, but found that she was standing opposite it. Mother and daughter gasped in horror. Somehow, they had become each other. What on earth was going on? They were seeing their familiar faces in the mirror, yet it felt bizarre. Rather than simply transform, it looked like a body swap. Thus, Yua's mother ended up attending school in her daughter's body. She barely knew any of these students. The entire morning, she had only talked to Miro Yumiko, who approached her, evidently quite close to Yua. Now, upon discovering her daughter had joined some suspicious service club, she felt compelled to investigate for Yua's sake. But she had no clue where that service club was located, so she had to rely on Miro Yumiko, who apparently knew about it. She planned to see what kind of group it was and gauge whether it was safe for her daughter's mental well-being. Chapter 204, Service Club, Yua's mom mind in shock. Yumiko, you're not fond of the service club, are you? Yua's mother, in Yua's body, posed this question to Yumiko, testing the waters. If Yumiko disliked it, there had to be a reason. Maybe she could glean some useful information from it. Ugh. At the mention of the service club, Yumiko let out a disgusted huff. Placing her hands on her hips, she snapped, "Of course I don't like it. Staying in that place is totally uncomfortable. Because the service club belonged to Yukinoshita Yukino." Just thinking of Yukinoshita's perpetually icy face put her in a sour mood, let alone having to hang out with her. If her anger flared, they would probably clash. Yumiko knew full well that her real issue was not liking Yukinoshita. Yua's mother had no idea. Hearing the clear animosity in Yumiko's voice, Yua's mother tensed inwardly. As expected, that service club is probably no good. She clenched her fists. I have to check if the club is safe. She didn't want her daughter involved in some shady activity, possibly getting bullied. Yumiko, could you come with me to take a look? I'm begging you. Though she felt embarrassed at her age, Yua's mother forced herself to ask. She needed to get a good look. Seeing Yua cling to her so childishly, Yumiko felt a vein throb on her forehead. Fine, I'll go with you. But don't expect me to speak up for you or anything. Thank you, Yumiko. Yua's mother broke into a Yamato Nagesaku-like smile. That ladylike smile felt alien to Yumiko. Since when did Yua go and from a cutesy vibe to this refined style? They headed toward the service club together. Once they saw no one else in the hallway, Yumiko asked casually, so, Yua, about Rayao. Have you figured out what you're gonna do? Yua's mother froze in confusion. Rayao? Who's that? It sounded like a guy's name. She recalled how lately her daughter had been acting like a girl in love. Could it be? Yumiko saw Yua go silent, guessing that she was still indecisive. Feeling impatient, she prodded, come on, Yua, is this something that needs so much time to think through? If you can't accept that Rayao-kun's gonna be shared among others, then be bold and go confess. If you can't accept that, then quit thinking about him? Yua's mother's eyes widened. Shared? She wondered if she'd misheard. She forced a smile. Why Yumiko, you're joking, right? Ha. Yumiko spoke seriously. Since when did I joke around? Didn't you see it this morning? Rayao already did it with Mumai and 4 others. You've got zero opinion about that? Her thoughts churned. She felt short of breath. It seemed her daughter was in love with some ultimate player. Examining Yumiko's blonde hair and fierce expression, Yua's mother wondered if she was a delinquent, Jaiaru. She'd heard about the messy daily life of teenage delinquents nowadays. Anxiety flared in her. She absolutely didn't want her daughter fooling around with random people and ruining her future. By reflex, she let go of Yumiko's hand. Yumiko frowned. Yua, you're acting really off today. Huh? Am I? Ha. Yua's mother gave a strained laugh, then turned her gaze resolutely on the door bearing the service club sign. They had arrived. Sigh. Yumiko sighed. Why are you still hesitating this much over that? If you don't make up your mind, Rayao-kun's gonna be eaten up by other girls with nothing left for you. Yua's mother could only recoil at the idea of multiple girls sharing a guy. She truly couldn't get her head around this delinquent logic. But the more pressing matter now was the service club. Her eyes grew serious. She wanted to see firsthand what this service club was actually up to. If it was doing anything illegal, she'd call the cops right away. Taking a heavy breath like she was about to confront an abyss, she knocked on the door. Come in? Yua's mother was startled that the voice belonged to a cool-sounding girl, not a boy. Could there be other victims here? Subconsciously, she labeled Yua, her daughter's body, and this mystery girl as fellow victims. Clack. She opened the door. But the chaotic scene she'd imagined didn't appear. She actually breathed a sigh of relief. All she saw was a black-haired girl with icy eyes staring straight at her. Yua, you're late. So this must be the one who messaged her. Yukinoshita Yukino. She hadn't had time to speak yet when Yumiko cut in irritably. Humphrey, Yuki no Shida, even if you're the service club president, you can't just boss you around. President? Yu's mother paused. So this girl had founded the service club? She wondered why a high schooler would create such a mysterious club. Things might not be so simple. Yukino Shita Yukino clearly sensed Yumiko's hostility, but her expression remained unruffled. I'm not bossing her. This was something we arranged earlier, and she's late. Yumiko looked ready to lash out again, but Yu's mother didn't want any conflict. She quickly interjected, Ahem, Yukino Shita-san, could you please tell me why you called me here? The moment she spoke, Yukino Shita's gaze centered on Yu. Huh? Is there something on my face? Yukino Shita fell silent, then shook her head. No, it's just I never imagined you would forget about this. In truth, she was also noting how Yu now addressed her as Yukino Shita-san instead of Yukainon. She didn't know why, but decided to respect that choice. Nevertheless, the sudden formality caused an indefinable pang of discomfort in her chest. She steadied herself. She'll be here soon. Yu's mother and Yumiko both wondered who else was coming. Not long after, the Shiyuki no Shita mentioned arrived, Kawasaki Saki. Having thought it over and wrapped up her personal matters, Saki finally made her decision. Yuki no Shita, I want to learn the truth. Sitting across from Yuki no Shita, Kawasaki Saki spoke solemnly. She wanted to understand this world's real nature. Yuki no Shita Yukino gazed at her for some time, then let out a tiny sigh. If that's what you want, I'll share with you whatever Rao said I can. Miro Yumiko silently sized up Kawasaki, perhaps discerning something. But Yu's mother stood there, baffled. There's that name Rao again. They all look so serious. What exactly are they talking about? Yuki no Shita resumed, this world is T.ordinary. One sentence, and Yu's mother found herself listening attentively. As Yuki no Shita explained to Kawasaki Saki, Yu's mother heard bizarre knowledge flowing into her ears. Man-eating beasts, terrifying demons, etc. Yuki no Shita spoke with earnestness. Kawasaki listened in shock. Yumiko seemed composed, like it was no big deal. Yu's mother merely wondered if they were a bunch of so-called Chayunabiu? And that Rao a scumbag tricking these Chayunabiu girls. Maybe her daughter had also turned into a Chayunabiu? But then Kawasaki, remembering firsthand how frightening monsters could be, even if that female succubus hadn't tried to eat her, there might be man-eating creatures out there, asked fearfully, how do we fight those monsters? She was extremely alert now, having witnessed such things herself. Yuki no Shita answered, some people in this world have the special powers needed to deal with them. Then, Yuki no Shita-san, can you teach me? Kawasaki pressed anxiously. I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of power. Yuki no Shita gave a helpless shake of her head. She considered acquiring abilities to protect herself, but as an ordinary human, she only knew one potential way. Through Rao, via a trade. She refused to go that route. I see. Kawasaki Saki looked crestfallen but still held out hope. Then do you know anyone else who does? Yuki no Shita unconsciously glanced at Mira Yumiko. In their group, she was the only one. Well, yes. I do. Yumiko raised her hand, golden light gathering at her fingertips. She aimed at the tabletop, ZZTT. A beam of light shot forth. Everyone stiffened, their minds rocked, as they saw the tray punch a hole through the desk. Yu's mother sprang to her feet, staring in shock at the desk, which now had a hole. This. How is that possible? A moment ago, she'd assumed it was all teenage fantasies or Chayunabiu. Yet they'd just demonstrated something real. Her mind went blank. So it was all true. Chapter 205, Mrs. Uegahama's worldview collapses. Saki's new job? She forced a stiff smile and asked Yumiko awkwardly, Is that magic? Huh? Yumiko raised an eyebrow, confused. Are you kidding me? You know I have this ability. So why ask something like that? She blinked at Yu. Seriously, Yu, you're acting really strange today. Yu's mother, in Yu's body, tensed up. She definitely didn't want anyone finding out about her body swap situation. Then something flashed through her mind. Had she forgotten she herself wasn't Yu? This body swap itself was already proof that the world wasn't normal. Meaning what they were discussing might actually be true? While Yumiko was about to press Yu further, Kawasaki Saki suddenly grabbed Yumiko's hand. Hey, Yu. Could you teach me your superpower? Yumiko felt awkward under her intense gaze, so she temporarily forgot about Yu's odd behavior. Sorry, I can't teach you. I only have these abilities because Rao-kun granted them. Him? Kawasaki Saki remembered very clearly the person who had saved her life, so of course she couldn't forget Rao. Yumiko waved her hand. Anyway, if you want that kind of thing, Only he can give it to you. Before we go any further, Yukino cut in coolly. Please don't casually use your power on our desks and chairs, Mira-san. Luckily, it was only a small hole in the table. If she'd gone overboard and destroyed school property, they'd have a big headache explaining it. Yeah, I get it. What a pain. Yumiko knew she was at fault for damaging the desk, so she didn't try to argue. Yukino-san? Kawasaki-saki spoke up hesitantly. Could you or someone here help me get in contact with Rei-kun? I want to thank him properly, and also talk about learning some kind of self-defense power. Well, Yukino and Yumiko glanced at each other. In the group chat Yukino, Rei-au, something has come up that concerns you. Rei-au, oh? Something about me? Let's hear it. Yukino, remember Kawasaki-saki, the girl you saved before? Rei-au, that was only a few days ago. I'm not that senile yet. Yukino, sorry, I read that overindulging in certain desires can lead to memory loss. Rei-au. He sensed Yukino's subtle jab. Apparently referencing his, shall we say, very active romantic life. Rei-au, alright, let's get to the point. Yukino, Kawasaki-saki wants to meet you. She chose to learn the truth, so I've told her what you said I was allowed to share. Rei-au, it's her choice, so we should respect it. Where is she? Yukino, at the service club. Miro Yumiko, I'm here with her and you too. Rei-au, I'm there. He really was. And his sudden appearance startled Yu's mother so badly she nearly jumped out of her skin. Wah! She let out a shriek, stumbling backward. Seeing someone appear out of nowhere like that was enough to scare her half to death. Rei-au quickly grabbed her arm before she fell, pulling her into his arms so she wouldn't topple over. But then he gazed at Yu's eyes, as if peering into her very soul, making Yu's mother blush fiercely. She hastily escaped his arms. Yumiko blinked. She definitely noticed how Yu reacted. She's acting super weird today. Rei-kun? Kawasaki-saki stared in shock. A moment ago, there'd been no one in that spot, and now he was just not there. How did he do that? Rei-au withdrew his strangely probing look from Yu and turned to Kawasaki. I heard you wanted to see me? Kawasaki remembered her purpose here, pressed down her confusion, and bowed low. Rei-kun, thank you so much for saving me the other day. I didn't even get to say thanks properly. I'm sorry. Apology unnecessary, Rei-au said, waving it off. You were in shock at the time. I totally get it. Having your worldview collapse was rough, after all. Calmness alone was admirable. Anyway, let's talk about your current business. I heard from Yukino you needed me for something, and it's probably more than just a thank you, right? If it's to erase your memories, I can do that right now. Hearing that last line, Yu's mother felt her mind spin again. Erasing memories? He can do that? And no. Kawasaki-saki quickly shook her head. She definitely didn't want to lose those memories. After gulping anxiously, she mustered her courage. Could you teach me how to learn superpowers? Learn superpowers? Rei-au repeated, genuinely surprised. What for? Self-defense? So you can keep working as a bar hostess? No, Kawasaki said with a bitter smile, I already quit that part-time job. After the terrifying experience she'd had, she realized the danger. She also wanted more time at home, so she let it go. Yukino raised an eyebrow. Does that mean your family's financial problems are fixed? Kawasaki shook her head. Not at all. But there's not much more I can do for them. I hope my parents can hold out somehow. Rei-au stroked his chin thoughtfully and suddenly asked, do you know how to handle household chores? Like cleaning, tidying? Huh? Kawasaki had no idea why he asked, but she answered politely out of respect for her savior, yes, I'm very confident in my domestic skills. In that case, Rei-au proposed. I might have a safer job for you to make some money. If you're free on weekends, you can come by my place and handle household chores. My house is pretty big. Eh? Kawasaki's eyes went wide. And about the pay? Whatever you earned in a week at the bar, I'll match that. Ah. Kawasaki blurted out in disbelief. Doing housework for that much money? If that was real, of course she'd be interested. Chapter 206, Mrs. Uegahama. Hearing that Rei-au was going to hire Kawasaki-saki, both Yukino and Yumiko glanced over at him simultaneously. Their eyes were filled with suspicion. Like they suspected maybe he's got his eye on Kawasaki-saki? This wasn't baseless. After witnessing Rei-au's pattern of fall for one person after another, it was a very logical conclusion. Moreover, they guessed right. Rei-au had simply taken a liking to Kawasaki-saki. His home didn't really need any household help. With his abilities and Tato around, A quick spell was all it took to tidy up the place. He only made that job offer to have her around long term, making it easier to make his move. That face, that figure. He saw no reason not to claim her. And he certainly didn't lack for money, while Kawasaki desperately needed it. Kawasaki said solemnly. I'd like to give it a try. Rao, we can talk more after we've exchanged contact info. Now about the other thing. You wanted to learn superpowers. Kawasaki scratched her head, embarrassed. I just want some self-defense skills. Is that possible? Of course. No problem, Rao replied lightly, but there's a price. A price? Money. Money was the only thing Kawasaki had in mind. She was still too naive. Rao just smiled without answering. Ding. You have chosen to invite Kawasaki into the group chat subgroup, huh? Kawasaki looked puzzled, then went blank, dazed on the spot. Yumiko immediately realized something was going on. Opening the group chat tab, sure enough, she saw that Kawasaki had joined. Only Yu's mother, in Yu's body, looked clueless. What's wrong with her? Yumiko sighed, rubbing her forehead. Check the group, another new member has joined. She was exasperated that, sure enough, Rao had set his sights on yet another girl. Right in front of her, no less. A group? Then, under Rao's gaze, Yu's mother, still in Yu's body, fished out her phone, presumably to look for some app. Rao nodded slightly. Then he said to the others, Yumiko, Yukino, please explain the trade business to Kawasaki. As for me. He glanced over at Yu. I need to have a word with Yu. At those words, Yu's mother paled. Nonetheless, Rao grabbed her hand and led her away from the service club. Yukino frowned. When did Rao and Yu get so close that they hold hands like that? She looked at Yumiko for an answer. Yumiko just shrugged in annoyance. Don't look at me. Yu doesn't tell me anything. I have no clue. She had no idea why they were suddenly hand in hand, either. Yui was definitely acting strange today. Rao-san, where are we going? Yu's mother asked nervously as he led her down the hallway. Her heart was pounding. They came to a deserted stairwell, where Rao finally stopped. Before she could react, he gave her a forcefully caved on against the wall. Rao-san, what are you doing? Such close proximity left Yu's mother in a panic. Rao, however, wore a deeply amused expression. Yu, why did you call me Rao-san? Until now you'd been calling me Rao-kun, but much more familiarly after confessing your feelings to me. Eh? She stared at him, eyes wide. Yu's mother hadn't known that her daughter had already confessed. I mean, Yu, I'm saying I accept your confession. So shouldn't we do what couples do? What couples do? Yu's mother froze, watching Rao's face draw closer. What should I do? Her mind went blank. That move clearly signaled a kiss. If this were truly her, she would dodge or push him away. But the moment she had that thought, it vanished. She remembered that this body didn't belong to her, it belonged to Yu. Right now, she wasn't Yu's mother, she was Yu. Rao accepted Yu's confession and wanted to kiss. If she dodged, how would Rao see Yu then? Might it ruin her daughter's relationship? Would Yu resent her for it? In the end, Yu's mother decided, if she was Yu at this moment, she had to act like Yu. Her heart hammered like mad. Rao assumed this fake Yu would drop the charade. He had known from the start that this wasn't the real Yu. He was just testing how far she'd go. He'd even paused, expecting her to pull away. Instead, contrary to what he expected, the fake Yu leaned forward and initiated the kiss herself. Rao felt a flicker of surprise, but quickly complied with his usual approach. Giving every woman who falls for him a thorough kiss. She was clumsy and anxious at first, but under his patient guidance, she gradually became more natural, even putting her arms around him and surrendering to the moment. Honestly, Rao's kissing skills were tried and tested beyond measure. Subduing an unpolished newbie was child's play. Moments later, returning to her senses from possibly the most intoxicating first kiss of her life, Yu's mother was left breathless and lightheaded, face as red as a ripe apple. Pleasure was swiftly replaced by an avalanche of embarrassment and guilt. What on earth am I doing? I kissed a teenage boy until we were both gasping for air. Before she could steady herself, Rao spoke in a strangely amused tone. Whoever you are, disguised as Yu. I realize I'm not exactly ugly, but you sure seemed too enthusiastic, huh? Eh? She stiffened. Did that mean he knew she wasn't Yu? So, may I ask for your name, miss, and why you're posing as Yu? He'd figured her out. Yu's mother bowed her head, speechless. Rao had a plan, though. He messaged Yu directly through their private group chat. Rao, Yu, where are you right now? Yuagahama Yu, I'm at school, of course. Rao, hey, Yu, when did you learn to lie? Then who's this? Rao, image. In the body of you is mother, actual you, screamed, popping up from the couch. The photo showed her own body, head hanging in guilt, the precise moment of discovery. So mom had been found out. Yuagahama U.S. Sorry, Rao-kun, I lied. Rao, alright, tell me everything. Yuagahama U.S. Well, that's my mom. Rao. He wasn't really shocked. With his true sight, he had gleaned some data, name, Yuagahama-kyo, level, 0. He'd guessed it had to do with you, but not that it was her mom. Thinking back on that just-finished kiss, he didn't personally mind. If anything, he found it kinda thrilling. But for Yua's mother, it must be terrifying. She was all flattery, and Yua, in her mother's body, apologized. Yuagahama Yua, I have no idea how or why this happened, or what to do. Rao, it's probably some kind of supernatural phenomenon. I have a hunch, but I need your mom here to confirm it. I'll come by your house after school. Yuagahama Yua, huh? You're coming to my house? Then I'll pick up some groceries so mom can make a big dinner. Rao. You don't sound worried at all. Yuagahama Yua, hee, I'm excited you're coming over, Rao-kun. Besides, it's just body swapped with mom, not a total stranger. Rao, you're way too casual about this. Rao sighed. Letting out a breath, he backed off a step, giving his mother some personal space. He said gently, Yuagahama-san, I've heard the full story from Yua. You two have swapped bodies, correct? The mother's eyes widened. You mean Yua told you everything? Yup. Arms folded, Rao mused, you swapping bodies with your daughter is some supernatural phenomenon. I'll come over after school to see what's going on. Oh, I see. Given everything she'd seen. Magic, demons, the fiasco with Rao. Yu's mother had already realized the world was bigger and stranger than she thought. She nodded meekly. But then she noticed how she'd reflexively shown such obedient behavior in front of a teenage boy. Ugh. Her face reddened further. Mrs. Yuagahama-san, about what happened just now. Rao began, presumably referencing their kiss. She cut him off frantically. That was just an accident. She was far too embarrassed to face Rao. Or Yua. Right now. Will meet again after school. She had no face to remain. She fled in a hurry. As Rao watched Yua's real body vanish around the corner, his mind pictured the shapely mother's flustered expression. Casting a glance downward, he sighed, am I really developing a taste for older women? He chuckled dryly at how he'd spontaneously gotten aroused, thinking it was Yu's mother. I guess I kinda do want to see the real Mrs. Yuagahama now. Chapter 207, A Huge Playboy. After returning to the service club, Rao didn't even get a chance to speak before Kawasaki shyly bowed to him. I'm sorry, Rao-kun, but I take back my request for superpowers. Yuki Noshita's expression remained calm. Yumeko folded her arms, gazing at Kawasaki with schadenfreude in her eyes. It was clear that Yumeko had likely thrown in a few sensational details about the trade. In truth, even without embellishment, few people would agree to it. Kawasaki might be short on money, but she hadn't stooped to anything illicit. Definitely wouldn't sell her body just for some nebulous superpower. The moment she found out about the required body transaction, she gave it up right away. After all, even without superpowers, she still had her taekwondo for self-defense. It's your decision. Rao didn't mind. A trade was voluntary. Nobody would be forced into it. Ahem. Kawasaki looked nervously at Rao, thinking about how she'd just discovered the chaotic side of her savior. I still have stuff to do, so I'll be leaving now. She promptly fled. Hey, Rao-kun, looks like you couldn't get her after all, Yumeko said smugly. Rao just shook his head with a wry grin. I never said I had to get anyone in particular. But at least I've already got you, right? With that, he stepped forward and pulled Yumeko into his arms, apparently intending to kiss her right then and there. Ah. Blushing, Yumeko pressed against his chest. Don't. There are still people here. She didn't mind kissing her boyfriend, but not with Yuki Noshita right there watching. Yuki Noshita frowned slightly and said in a cool voice, I have to remind you two that the service club is not the place for public displays of affection. It was her domain, after all. Rao decided not to push his luck here. Alright, if there's nothing else, we'll head off now. Making an okay sign at Yuki Noshita, he left with Yumeko, who instantly morphed from a prideful queen to a blushing girlfriend. A while passed. Sigh. Yuki Noshita exhaled heavily. Rao had changed so many people. She never thought she'd see Yumeko looking all demure like that. At Rao's house. Futaba Rio, who hadn't slept well all night, woke up near midday. Opening her eyes, she took in the unfamiliar bed and ceiling, and remembered that this was Rao's place. She also recalled how she'd tossed and turned until late, her mind replaying the events from last night. Surely they're done by now, she thought. She got up, put on her glasses, and stood. Once dressed, she emerged from the bedroom. Across the hallway, another room was open. But empty. No trace of any chaotic scene. She breathed a sigh of relief. She'd been afraid of seeing something she couldn't unsee. Going into the living room, she found Toru, Sora, and Ilya. "You're up." Toru glanced her way. "Rael said you wanted to go buy some clothes. Need me to come along?" After a moment's silence, Futaba shook her head. "I'll do it myself." "Oh." Toru didn't question her further. She didn't really care about anyone but Rael. Futaba headed to the bathroom. Once she'd left, Ilya asked Toru, curious, "Toru-ne, is she also Master's woman?" Sora, nibbling a banana, said while chewing, "Definitely not. Otherwise she'd have joined us last night to serve Master." Toru nodded, "Yeah, not yet, anyway." But she still pouted jealously, "Honestly, I alone should be enough. I'm a dragon through and through. Only I can truly satisfy Rael, right?" "Huh?" Sora wasn't having that. "I happen to be Master's grimoire. How could Master do without me?" Ilya smiled sweetly, "I'll always serve Master, too." "TCH." Toru gave a derisive snort. "You two wimps can barely keep up. Rael can wipe you out in a single go. You're just not on his level." "Ugh." Both Sora and Ilya clammed up. It was true they didn't have much staying power. Toru's big advantage was her substantial dragon physique. They couldn't compare. All this talk was overheard by Futaba in the bathroom, who listened, stunned. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, she wondered, does that mean Rael intends to go after me, too? After school? Go on home. I have to drop by Yua's place. Huh? Mai eyed him suspiciously. Let me guess. You're going to spend another night away, hooking up with Yua this time? Rael rolled his eyes. You make me sound like I'm some sort of... well, maybe let's not get into that. But come on, do you really see me that way? Yes, a wild beast of endless lust, always after another girl. That sums it up. She fired that off without hesitation. PFT. Rael smiled dryly and didn't bother denying it. I'll take that as a compliment. Considering my desire's strong and my stamina's high, you sure seem to enjoy it plenty, right, Mai? Arg, who's enjoying it, you idiot? Mai blushed bright red. Even if she did enjoy it, he didn't have to say it so bluntly. She glowered at him with flustered eyes. Fine, whatever. Hope you don't come home all night. I refuse to believe you can snag a new girl every day. Humphrey. She snapped her head away, leaving him with only her retreating back. Meanwhile, the figure who approached Rael was Uegahama Yua, who was actually Yua's mother. She didn't catch their conversation but saw how intimate they looked. Staring at Mai's back, Yua's mother asked, Rael-kun, who was that? Oh, one of my girlfriends. Sakurajima Mai, Rael answered casually. That left Yua's mother anything but calm, huh? She pressed a hand over her mouth in shock. Girlfriend. One of them. Suddenly, everything she'd been hearing lined up. Rael might indeed be the type to juggle multiple relationships. So he was a huge playboy. Chapter 208, Uegahama's residence. Let's eat. When Rael noticed Yua's mother's, in Yua's body, intense reaction upon learning he was juggling multiple girlfriends, he didn't pay it much mind and got back to the main topic. Uegahama-san, how do you plan on getting home? Taxi or walking? I'll walk. Carrying complex emotions, Yua's mother and Rael set off toward her house. At first, neither spoke, and Yua's mother's eyes stayed trained on the road ahead. Finally, after walking a while, she couldn't hold back. Rael-kun, please answer me honestly, what do you think of Yua? Yua? She's cute, full of energy. I like her a lot. He saw no need to hesitate in stating that. Yua's mother wasn't surprised. She already viewed him as a philanderer asking him this question. She didn't want to meddle in her daughter's own feelings, but the reality was more complicated than a simple boy-girl romance, and she had to step in. She halted, fixing Rael with a serious look. If you truly like Yua, I want you to stay away from other girls and focus on her alone. Otherwise. Please don't toy with Yua's feelings or deceive her. I'm Yua's mother, and I'll do whatever I must to keep you from hurting her. She had Yua's face, but the stern, protective aura she radiated now was something Yua herself would rarely show. Indeed, she was entirely serious about protecting her daughter. But, I respect your love for Yua, Mrs. Uegahama, Rael replied calmly, not at all fazed by her harsh words. However, there's something you've got wrong. What do you mean? It was Yua who confessed to me first, but I never agreed, Rael said, spreading his hands. Huh? Yu's mother blinked in confusion. She recalled Yumiko mentioning Yu's indecision and Rayu's accepting a confession. So could that have been wrong? She wondered if she'd misunderstood Rayu. Just as she was about to assume she'd blamed him unfairly, Rayu added, "But, about me liking Yu. That part you got right." Eh? She was even more confused now. He liked Yu, yet he rejected her confession. How odd was that? Yu's mother felt totally baffled. She could only ask him directly, "Why?" "Because when you had developed feelings for me, she hadn't yet seen all sides of me." Rayu's tone was light. "I do like Yu, but I want her to see me fully. And still like me. So, I told her everything, including my special situation and the fact that I have other people I like." He briefly explained what had happened, and Yu's mother understood, so Yu knew it all along. That meant Yu knew Rayu was a player yet couldn't stop thinking about him anyway. No wonder Yumiko insisted she make a firm decision instead of hesitating. Accept it wholeheartedly or else just walk away. It appeared Rayu truly was a multi-timing scumbag, but he was also extremely peculiar. Yu's mother asked with a conflicted look, "Those other girlfriends you mentioned, are they the same?" "Absolutely," he said, confidently. "I respect each one's choice." Somehow, his words left Yu's mother with no room to doubt. She found herself strangely inclined to trust him. Even though he was clearly much younger and had multiple partners, she couldn't put on any adult authority in front of him. Sigh. She took a deep breath and finally apologized. "I'm sorry, Rayu-kun. I passed judgment on you without knowing the full story." "It's fine. I know you're just worried about Yu." "Thank you." She looked grateful. "So, I'll leave it to you all to sort things out. I won't intrude for no reason." She decided to step back and let her daughter handle her own relationship. Besides, Rayu truly was special, not only for his supernatural abilities but also for his candid way of respecting Yu's choices. She had no grounds to object. Of course, one more thing kept bugging her, his extremely skillful kissing. Even she, a complete novice, had nearly been swept away by the deep kiss. She shuddered to think how it would affect Yu, and it made her face burn with shame. "Mrs. Uegahama? Aren't we going?" "Yes. Of course." Yu's mother snapped out of it and quickly hurried ahead of Rayu, not wanting him to see her face so red. She felt so embarrassed about her wandering thoughts. "I'm so shameless." After that frank conversation, the awkward atmosphere subsided somewhat, though Yu's mother remained quiet, still flustered over Rayu for reasons she couldn't speak about. Eventually, they arrived at Yu's house. Upon stepping into the living room, Rayu saw a woman with an absolutely perfect figure, wearing a plush sweater, lazing on the couch. Despite her more mature bearing, she looked so much like Yu. The same hair color. She was, in fact, Yu's mother, Uegahama, but right now, Yu's consciousness inhabited her body. "Mom. Rayu. You're back." Seeing them, Yu, actually the mother's body, sprang upright with great enthusiasm. The large motion caused her well-endowed figure to bounce noticeably. Yu's mother, in Yu's body, felt her scalp prickle. Seeing her own body from another's perspective for the first time made her realize that even a simple move like standing could look unbelievably suggestive. She recalled Rayu was next to her, and indeed, he was looking. She felt instantly flustered. Rayu, however, remained composed. Just calmly admiring the view. The real Yu, in her mother's body, was oblivious to how it seemed, rummaging happily with some bags. "Mom, I bought a bunch of fresh groceries. Let's have Rayu-kun eat dinner with us tonight, okay?" Chapter 209, Puberty Syndrome, Marker, Strangeness? What the fuck is happening? Even using Yu's body, Yu's mother still cooked with practiced skill. To avoid the awkward sensation of seeing her own body from a third-person viewpoint, she had gone straight to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Meanwhile, Rayu observed Yu's condition. It turned out she had developed puberty syndrome. Name, Uegahama Yu. Level, 0, Ability, Puberty Syndrome, Targeted Exchange, Incomplete, Puberty Syndrome, Targeted Exchange. Able to swap bodies and souls with one specific target. Current designated target, Uegahama Yu herself. Note, because the ability is incomplete, the longer they remain swapped, the higher the chance of it becoming permanent. This was undoubtedly the root cause behind Yu and her mother's predicament. But why did Yu end up with puberty syndrome? Ugh. Having Rayu stare at her put Yu, in her mother's body, on edge. She felt uneasy because, although it was really her, the body Rayu was looking at was actually her mother's. A bizarre feeling that made her squirm as if ants were crawling all over. She couldn't help shifting her posture and asking, "Rayu-kun, do you know what's happening to Mom and me?" Rayu met her curious gaze and smiled faintly. "It seems like you're not all that worried or scared, huh, Yu?" Yu blinked. "Well, it's my mom. If it were someone else, I'd definitely be nervous or scared. True. Rao nodded, moving on to the main point. The reason this phenomenon is happening is because of you, Yue. Me? Yue froze. But I haven't done anything special. All she knew was that she woke up like this. Because you've come down with a supernatural condition called puberty syndrome, Rao explained, giving her a rundown of what puberty syndrome was and how it worked. He also used Mai and Futaba-ryo as examples. So I've run into something like this? Yue felt dazed by the explanation. Rao then asked, Yue, have you been troubled by anything lately? Any adolescent worries? She stiffened, instantly flustered. She already realized why she had turned out this way. She did have adolescent worries, specifically the fact she couldn't express her feelings properly to Rao. She yearned to be as mature as her mother. That matched perfectly with what Rao had described. Now, she really had turned into a mature mother, albeit by literally swapping bodies with her. Still, she was too embarrassed to tell Rao about it. Under Rao's gaze, Yue visibly panicked. Just then, Yue's mother called from the kitchen, Yue, come help me for a second. Oh. Coming. Seizing that lifeline, Yue hastily said, Rao-kun, I'll go help mom. And dashed off. Rao watched her retreating back, eyes shining as he pondered. Clearly there was more to this story. Yue, what were you two talking about? Ugh, and nothing, mom. What do you need me to do? Inside the kitchen, Yue's mother sighed inwardly. She could easily see that Yue, in her mother's body, was trying to hide something. The reason she called Yue over was to keep her from doing anything rash in her mother's body. After all, Yue's mother herself had already done something very embarrassing in Yue's body. If Yue did the same, the fallout would be unimaginable. She absolutely couldn't let that happen. Just help me with this. Yue's mother had to keep an eye on her. Yue. Hearing the door open, Toru, wearing an apron, came out gripping a spatula. Futaba-ryo, who'd been quietly seated on the sofa, also turned to look. Where's Rao? Where is he? Noticing that only Mai had returned, Toru grabbed Mai's shoulders, giving her a vigorous shake. Mai felt totally exasperated by Toru. The dragon's mind was filled with nothing but Rao, as if she wanted him to fill her every pore. All she could say was that he'd gone out to handle something and wouldn't be home for dinner today. Huh? Toru stood there, her expression turning gray with despair. Mai went to the sofa, set down her bag, and rubbed her shoulders. She removed her jacket and long socks. Right then, Futaba-ryo noticed the marker scrawls all over Mai's body, characters like sexy, erotic, and so forth, bringing to mind all sorts of strange possibilities. Mai realized Futaba-ryo's gaze settling on the writing, and she hurried to explain, this is a misunderstanding. Futaba-ryo politely averted her gaze, turning to her phone. Other people's kinks were none of her business. She just hadn't expected Sakurajima Mai, the celebrity she'd read about on her phone, to be this open. It was mind-boggling. Seeing her reaction, Mai had no idea how to explain properly. It's all Rao's fault. She cursed inwardly. Mom, I'm home. Ayuri Sawamura returned home with her usual bounce. Huh, Mom, why aren't the lights on? She opened the door and found the curtains pulled, the house shrouded in darkness. Reaching for the entryway switch, she jumped at the cold touch of something before she could turn on the lamp. Ayuri, the circuit breaker at home went bad today. So it was Sawamura Kori. Her mother. Recognizing her mom's face in the dimness, Ayuri breathed relief. Mom, don't creep around like that. You scared me half to death. She patted her chest. Kori drawled, couldn't help it, it's pitch black in here. Come inside, Ayuri. I've got something delicious prepared, okay? Ayuri trusted her mom completely, so she stepped inside without hesitation. She failed to see Kori behind her, whose face looked deathly pale, lips curling into a sinister smile. Lifting her hand, Kori gently closed the door. Ayuri. My Delicious Treat Chapter 210, How to Solve Ayuri's Trade. At the Uegahama household. After quite a bit of busy work, Yue's mother, in Yue's body, finished preparing dinner. Under her enthusiastic hospitality, Rao joined them for the meal. During dinner, Rao also explained to Yue's mother what was happening to them. I see. Yue's mother first looked like she understood, then showed a worried expression. Yue, are you struggling with something? Any problems or worries? Because if it was Yue's adolescent troubles, her puberty syndrome, she must have something on her mind. Showing concern, Yue's mother urged, you can talk to mom about anything. Ugh. Yue lowered her head, busying herself with her food. She could never tell her mom about that. Seeing that Yue refused to respond, Yue's mother could only sigh in resignation. Sigh, so Yue's finally at that rebellious age? No way, Mom. Just quit asking already. Yue couldn't bear seeing her mom wear that dejected look, especially while using her own body. It felt all sorts of wrong. All right. Yu's mother, who knew her daughter was shy, didn't push further. As long as it wasn't about school bullying, that was fine. Instead, she turned to Rao-kun, do you know how we can get back to normal? Rao thought for a moment. The simplest way is for Yue to resolve her adolescent troubles, which would make the puberty syndrome vanish. From Yue's behavior, though, it was apparent that was easier said than done. She was too embarrassed to talk about her worries. Is there any other way? There's one that involves me.